You've worked hard for what you have. Your money, your assets, your 401k, and home. Isn't it all worth protecting? Nearly 1 in 4 consumers have been a victim of identity theft. LifeLock Ultimate Plus helps protect your finances with up to $3 million in reimbursement. LifeLock alerts you to identity threats you might miss. And if your identity is stolen, your dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. Let LifeLock help protect what you've worked so hard for. Save 25% off your first year on LifeLock Ultimate Plus at LifeLock.com/aware. Terms apply.
Attention Talking Simpsons listeners, we have a special mini-series just for you.
We're going through the entire first season of King of the Hill, and you can only hear it if you're a $5 and up patron at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
We're giving the Talking Simpsons treatment to all 13 episodes of King of the Hill's first season, and if you want a free sample, you'll find the first episode available for free in the Talking Simpsons feed. Patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. It's the only place you'll find the first season of Talk King of the Hill.
Made you go click, 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 click. It's real easy, man.
Cartoons from present and the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, now presented in Smell Around and HTX in selected theaters. I'm your host, the brain-eating spleen, Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
Henry Gilbert, official member of the Oxnard Montalvo fan club.
Please stop writing him. And today's episodes are the Angry Beavers episodes, Up All Night and Dag For Night.
Just you and me staying up all night doing whatever we want.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Well, come on. What are you waiting for?
I like the non-copyright infringing Spanish flea in the background.
Yes, yes.
But yes, the Angry Beavers is a pick from one of our patrons, right, Henry?
Yes, yeah, one of our top-level patrons, Shy Ranger. That's in the $50 a month category. If it ever opens up, you can sign up for that, and you'll get to pick a subject of a What a Cartoon once every 4 months, and Shy Ranger has done just that. Mm-hmm. And their reasoning for it is, quote, "Loved this show as a kid, still love it now. Has fun, zany humor like Rocco, but also esoteric yet intriguing references like Pinky and the Brain. Me and my friend Bick Dip on a bus picked these 2 episodes together. I chose these 2 episodes since the first represents the more sitcom-style approach to the show, and the second represents the more referential episodes, in this case, old B movies." And yeah, these are both really good at capturing the feel of the show. I'm glad we didn't do the full first episode, because the first half of the first episode, the origin episode, it just really takes a long time to get to the Beavers where they're supposed to be. I'd rather just start with them being the classic Yogi and Boo Boo kind of pals who live in a building in the woods.
Do you really need a premise for the show? It's the title is the premise.
Yeah, for some reason you need to see them leave the home and move out of the house, and include the very real beaver fact that when a second litter of beavers is born to a beaver mom, the previous litter leaves the nest. Yeah, no, this show, I watched it a bit as a teen, in as much as I watched most Nicktoons that were on TV, but I wasn't as into it as I was the other shows. When it premiered, I was almost 15, so I was starting to grow a little out of Nicktoons, but I did watch a lot of Angry Beavers.
I didn't watch more than a few episodes, actually. I think by the time 97 rolled around, all of the original Nicktoons and even Rocco were done.
Yep.
And I feel like they were transitioning to a different style of humor, less mean-spirited, less cynical, less gross. And I sort of transitioned from Nicktoons to the cartoons because things like Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, and I guess Cow and Chicken, those were all starting around this time. So I shifted to Cartoon Network, and I think those shifts are constantly happening. Like, for 5 years, Cartoon Network will have the best cartoons, and for 5 years, Nickelodeon will, and maybe Disney Channel gets that right for a few years.
They kind of traded around, and I think it's also about who they hire and who moves from place to place. You know, I was just thinking when you said that shift, that is when when Fred Seibert moved over to Cartoon Network from Nickelodeon as one of their development execs. But yeah, actually, Angry Beavers, when I did research on the making of the show, it ended up being stuck in this kind of nether realm between the cruelty of the Ren and Stimpy years and then a new executive getting in charge who was like, this show can't be this mean, even though they're rerunning Ren and Stimpy at the same time. So they got a few censor notes on content for a show that, it's a show called Angry Beavers. They're supposed to be, these characters are not angry. I mean, Dag is angry, but not angry like Ren is.
They're more like put-upon beavers.
Yes, frustrated beavers.
Frazzled beavers. Yeah, I guess my one pedantic note about the show, as a teen, I tuned in thinking, Angry Beavers. So, like all my favorite cartoons, two characters screaming at each other and hitting each other. It's like, well, they're not even angry.
No. And one of them is never angry. Like, he's calm and cool and collected.
And in the opening song, they fight each other.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool song and really cool animation. Probably my favorite part of this. I think I would just leave that on and then change the channel because I knew I wasn't really into the show.
It kind of goes down after the OP, but I did like the show. The biggest appeal to me when I saw it as a 14 to 15-year-old was the brother situation, because I have a younger brother and we have similar interests, but also we get on each other's nerves. So I was 15, he was 12 when this came out. So we had those kind of similar relationships, though I was usually the more anxious of the pair of us. I had the more Dag mentality, even though I was the older brother.
Well, my very old friends, Nick and Chris Daniel, who were on the Case Closed episode of What a Cartoon, I met them when this was still running. So I remember them being fans of the show, but I still couldn't get into it. And they have, obviously they're twins, so they have a very brotherly connection with each other, so I could see why the show would appeal to them. Although I won't say on air which beaver I think is which brother.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the Angry Beavers, they identify Dag as the younger brother, and he's definitely drawn as shorter than Norb, but in the very first episode, they're identified as 4 minutes apart. So they are basically twins. Like, it'd be crazy to meet a twin who was like, nope, we came out at the exact same time.
And our mother is dead.
we tore our mother in half and came out at the same time. Yeah, and now the show is hard to find unless you go to archive.org, then it's very easy to find.
I guess there were DVDs that are somehow just allowed to be hosted on archive.org.
I don't understand how, but I don't question it.
It's a big shrug. I love archive.org.
But yeah, I mean, it was on Shout Factory. They released the full season, but also it's like you can buy it in most streaming places too if you wanted to check it out. But how did Angry Beavers come to be, you may ask? Which they were really getting away with something there too with Angry Beavers.
I think the beaver term in that title is kind of like a wink to the audience, like it's kind of naughty.
By 97, even like 12-year-olds knew what beavers could be referring to, for sure.
I don't think anyone used that as slang for vagina since maybe like 1987.
It's a quaint saying for a vagina,
I guess.
I think. But yes, series creator is Mitch Schauer, spelled Schauer, but pronounced like the bathroom thing, the shower. Like he is an Oklahoma native who also, he talks about that partially the show is inspired by him seeing beavers when he was living out of his car when he was working.
I read that. He was homeless.
That was crazy to hear. He had quite an interesting life as an artist, and that he eventually was able to move to LA and attend Cal Arts to work on his artistic abilities. He also interned at Filmation in the late 70s while working at Cal Arts, and then got hired at Hanna-Barbera. Though he thought he'd have to leave, he was having trouble finding work, moves back home to Oklahoma to work in advertising. But while in Oklahoma, he's getting all these freelance jobs from Hanna-Barbera, partially because there's a strike on and he takes the jobs. But look.
We're doing a show about a scab?
In his stories about it, he doesn't say the word scab. But
scab is such an ugly word.
It does sound like that, doesn't it? But
let's just say temporary worker.
But yes, he says he was making more money doing this freelance stuff for H&B than he was working in Oklahoma. So he moved back to Los Angeles to re-enter the world of Hanna-Barbera, started working there. He also befriended Mark Evanier. He's buddies with him. And it was Mark Evanier who found out that there was a Johnny Quest comic book in the mid-'80s that he was like, you would be an awesome person to write and draw this. Like, you're a legit Johnny Quest fan. And so Mitch Schauer worked on a Johnny Quest comic book as well. And he has a bit of a comic book background, too. He's a real nerd. If you can believe it from watching the show, Mitch Schauer is a big old nerd of sci-fi and comic books. He then would work at Hanna-Barbera on some Scoobies and other things in the 80s. He would leave in the late 80s for Film Roman, working alongside Mark Evanier and a lot of other people on Garfield and Friends. And also on Bobby's World. He even said in one interview I found that he takes credit for the design of Bobby. Like, that he was in a meeting like, oh, you mean like this? And then he drew it, like, basically the Bobby scene
the weird
in the show.
Football-headed kid?
Yes, yeah, with messy hair. He also, around the early 90s, while working on those shows with Film Roman, he also got a little Nick work as an assistant boarder. He worked on some Roccos and Games, Ren and Stimpy's. They knew him in the games animation department. In his career travels, he was also working on the Cowboys of Moo Mesa at the time for the company Gunter Wall Productions.
I was reading online, this was their last thing they made.
Yes,
and the most notable thing they made.
They are Gunter Wall was extremely lucky to be hitched to Mitch, pretty much, because Gunter Wall had so while they're working on Moo Mesa, they had a pitch meeting with Nick. They invited Mitch to go to the Nickelodeon pitch meeting. He submitted 3 ideas. 2 he says he can't remember, and the other one was a drawing of these 2 beavers. And he says that the submission art was so appealing to Mary Harrington, the exec at Nick Animation. She was like, I want this. I want to see more of this. These characters are just so appealing to me. So Mitch was able to sell his show as a pilot that Gunter Wall was going to work on. So I think they just got lucky of like, thanks to Mitch selling this, we get to be the production company for this Nick cartoon. I think it's their only Nick cartoon as well.
And I agree. The character design is really appealing, especially the 2 main characters. I love how their bodies just sort of taper off into appendages.
Yeah.
And they just have like these little flipper fingers sticking out. It's really good. Like, their bodies are sort of like chubby versions of Carpet from Aladdin.
Yeah, they are so... My favorite drawings of them are when they're just kind of like flat rectangles. And it's funny, too, that they're like flat rectangles, but with like sharp pointy teeth and long cone noses that beavers do not have.
Daggett is a great design. I'm not as big a fan of as Norbert, but it's also a good design. But the design of Daggett is like instantly like, well, this is the Angry Beaver I want in my show.
Norbert honestly feels unneeded to Daggett's anger issues. Though actually, it's interesting, in the original drawings, Dag and Norbert looked very similar. Like, Daggett basically, from the eyes up, had Daggett's hair. Norbert did. And also, he was voiced by a different actor, too. But so, Gunter Wall, in 1994, they produced a pilot for Angry Beavers called Snowbound, which you can find on Vimeo. It's uploaded there. They cast Richard Horvitz in the role of Daggett from the beginning, but Norbert was played by an actor named Mitchell Whitfield, who I think is most famous as playing the guy Jennifer Aniston leaves at the altar in the first episode of Friends.
Oh, wow.
Barry, that character.
I didn't get a chance to watch that Vimeo clip. How different is the voice?
It's real different. I mean, Nick Bakay, not to get too far ahead, he just owns the role so much.
It sort of becomes a Nick Bakay. Bakay or Bakay?
I've heard both.
Okay.
I like Bakay.
It becomes a Nick B character. Like Salem.
I think Bakay would like us mispronouncing his name in funny ways. Like, that's
is that? I mean, well, I guess we'll get to it. Is that his bit, or is that written in the show? Just like 1 out of every 3 vowel sounds is wrong when he says it.
I think it's Nick.
Okay,
yeah,
it's fun, but it's just like, where does that come from? Yeah,
Norbert has played a lot more normal. He's just played as like, I'm the normal one to Dag, and I'm just like, well, Dag, I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, it's just a much more straight down the line pitch of a character. There's not much more to him. Horvitz, meanwhile, he was fresh off of his first voice acting role, non-union, of course, on Chaim Saban's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Let me guess, Alpha, right?
Yep, he was the original Alpha 5. Aye.
And then he would go on to become Vader Zim.
He would, yeah. That's his. He has so many great voice acting roles. I think I'd say Daggett is probably his third most famous after Zim and Alpha 5, I think. He's though he also is Rad in Psychonauts.
Yeah.
Raz. Yes, sorry.
It's okay. He is rad.
Yeah, he's
I can see why you're confused.
He's so rad as Raz, but his voice is one of those perfect, like, he only plays one character in a show, voice actor voices, but he's amazing at every voice he does. He brings so much to Dag, and Horvitz does just his little, like it's just anxious noises.
And it sounds like they're both together in a booth.
Yes,
it sounds like they're
yeah.
playing off each other's energy in the shows I watch.
Yeah, Mitch Schauer was a big believer in that. He really wanted to record the actors together, and he voice directed every recording of them too. The pilot has a lot of stuff that's present in the regular show. Like it's called Snowbound because they can never leave their dam, not unlike in the Up All Night episode, and it's just them driving each other crazy, getting stir crazy as they're snowed in. There's also still a sequence of watching an old 50s movie in it too, which the kind of MST3K genre schlock that we were enjoying on episodes like The Crawling Eye or The Brain That Wouldn't Die.
Creeping Terror.
Oh, Creeping Terror, yeah. So that's why I like this show, that I could get these jokes about old 50s movies without having to like see Weird Science or whatever else. So unfortunately, though, they passed on the pilot in 1994. They said that I think budget-wise, Nickelodeon could only pick one Nicktoon at a time to put into full 65 production. They couldn't, they weren't budgeting for full multiple productions at once then. And in 94, they decided to go with Hey Arnold, not Angry Beavers.
And All Real Monsters was in there somewhere too.
Yeah. The order goes, you got the first three of Doug, Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy. Then you got Rocco in 94 or 93. 94 is All Real Monsters. 95 is Hey Arnold. With his pilot not picked up, Schauer is taking on some other jobs. His favorite thing he did in that fallow period was he worked on the first season of Freakazoid for about 8 months. And you can see with his love of like comic books and old sci-fi movies and all that is so ingrained in Freakazoid.
When I saw his name on the title screen, I thought I have seen this somewhere before, and that's it. That's definitely it.
Yeah, he loved working with Paul Rugg too. I think he had a big hand in the Johnny Quest parody they did as well on the show. And in an interview when they asked him about Freakazoid, he's very proud of it. He said he won an Emmy for working on Freakazoid. The first season was an Emmy-winning season. And he also said he really liked how big the budgets were. He said the money flowed like wine.
That's Spielberg money.
Yeah, it's probably the best budget he ever had and ever will have on any production in his animation career.
And it was a lower tier in terms of importance WB show, kids WB show.
Yeah, man. I bet what he thinks was a lot of money seemed like a tightening of the belt to folks who worked on Tiny Toons in 1990. But as he was working on the show, 8 months in on season 1 of Freakazoid, Beavers gets picked up by Nick, and they decide they are going to make it a series now that the wheels are moving on their other shows. And so it will be the 7th or 8th Nicktoon, depending on whether you count Kablam as a Nicktoon or as an anthology show.
That's the eternal debate. Is Kablam a Nicktoon?
Sure, it's a Nicktoon. Sure.
It's weird.
It is weird. I mean,
we'll do it at some point, right?
Oh, for sure.
Nicktoons came. It's weird. It's a Nicktoon, but then Nicktoons came out of Kablam.
Yeah. It was more like is the What a Cartoon Show a cartoon show, or is it just a thing that presents pilots that were made? Though Kablam, unlike the What a Cartoon Show, did have interstitial hosts that did have a continuing like story to them.
Right.
Yeah, but Mitch Schauer leaves Freakazoid, starts working on Angry Beavers. They are retooling it a little bit from the pilot. He's given his co-developer Keith Kaczorek, Kaczorek. I don't.
Kaczorek.
Yeah. According to his LinkedIn, he started working on the show in June of 1995 to get it ready for. So that's he was there pretty much from the beginning of making it a full series, though he did not work on the pilot. As Mitch says, Keith was a head story editor on the show and really helped everybody focus their stories and scripts to figure out what they really wanted it to be. And yeah, the biggest change was a total redesign for Norbert. to give him the, as Mitch describes it, shag carpet hair.
He sort of looks more like a porcupine with that haircut than a beaver.
Yeah. Again, these guys look nothing like beavers. Like they should have like a button nose, not a long pointed rat nose. That was the most distracting thing to me in rewatching it. That they have these rat noses with their teeth all the way out at the end, where I'm like, no, their teeth, shouldn't they be connected to the rest of their teeth?
That is weird, but it's a nice nonsensical touch.
Yeah. Norbert was completely redesigned, and then they got to cast rising comedy star Nick Bakay, who was already by 1996 voicing Salem the Cat in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Nick brought they had a funny story that they said that Rich Horvitz was the second person that came in, and the second they heard him, they're like, oh, you're Daggett. You got the job. But they said that Nick, meanwhile, was the 800th dude they heard, and then they finally we got our Norbert. Nick, I didn't realize why we haven't seen him in a while is because he's super rich on Kevin James money these days.
He wrote the Blarts.
He wrote both Blarts.
Oh, sorry, co-wrote.
Yes, yeah. You
need two people to make a movie that good.
I think he first started working with Kevin James on the King of Queens sitcom, and he also worked on the Brad Garrett thing Till Death. He was a writer-actor on that as well. So he's doing pretty darn well, that Nick Bakay. But his voice is just so funny. Like, I love hearing his just like relaxed demeanor. Like he's kind of like low growl he gives to things sometimes.
It fits with all the lounge music you hear in the series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he really keyed into what they wanted to. And Mitch Schauer really loved the chemistry between Nick and Rich. Like, they really got each other, and they talks about how, like, he would tell them, improvise, do some stuff, but always come back to the script. And they keep stuff in. I think you can feel between we do a season 1 and a season 2 one in this, you can definitely tell they allowed them to be looser in season 2.
Yeah, the season 2 episode we did is it's going to be much more. They play around much more with the dialogue, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Mitch really credits the show's success to how likable and the chemistry between the two lead voice actors, which is really important too, because the show is just like, most episodes are really just those two characters. It is not a dense cast of characters on Angry Beavers.
I think we see all the other characters in the second episode.
Well, we don't see Norb's girlfriend or wannabe girlfriend, Tree Leaf. On the show, there were multiple animation directors, though the biggest ones were the directors for these two episodes, Michael Gerard and Robert Hughes, though they directed the majority of the episodes animation-wise. Though, Mitch Schauer was, there's some showrunners of shows that don't do the art, but he is very much an artist and designer. He can draw the characters on model and everything. So he was very much involved in all that stuff. But they still had animation directors for general episodes. And Charlie Brichette did all the music for the show. And you could guess it already.
Yeah.
But in interviews, Mitch said, like, I love Herb Alpert or Perry Como. Can you just imitate those? And boy, could he.
It's yet another show in the 90s that's obsessed with the 60s and early 70s.
Yeah, early 70s, or late 60s, and all the music their parents loved, like, and watching black and white terrible B movies on TV because that's all your local television channel could afford to play at midnight, because you're a big nerd and you're awake at midnight. But what are you going to watch? You can't stream a video game or press things on your phone.
I love how we experienced that generation's nostalgia through things like this in Mystery Science Theater. So now we have nostalgia, but it was filtered through them.
Yeah. And also in movies like Weird Science and Gremlins, that too was made by the dorks who grew up watching that junk and passed it along to us as an important thing. I mean, I could never imagine having the patience to actually watch, without commentary or jokes, one of those agonizing B movies.
I watched a lot of stuff because there was nothing better to do, but there was always something better to do than watch like a Roger Corman movie or a badly dubbed like sub bad Godzilla movie.
Those MST3K, the black and white ones, when they would take those on, like Monster A Go-Go, one of their worst ones ever.
Yeah.
But those I came to like more when they do a trashy 80s film, because those would be bad, but they would still be made by people who understood like editing could be faster.
Yeah. So we're getting into MST3K, by the way, and it'll pop up in these next episodes. But I kind of appreciated the 80s stuff, but I also like the sheer torture movies made by people who had no business making a movie, like Coleman Francis and Man on the Hands of Fate. And we mentioned The Creeping Terror. In that movie, they lost the audio tracks.
Oh, yeah.
The people who made the movie, so it just narrated the entire way. There's just a narrator.
Yeah.
And the narrator is narrating for people, and he said this, and then she remarked this.
That's right.
It's great.
Oh,
it's so
God.
great.
Monster A Go-Go, I think, is the worst because it's all stock footage edited together. Like they had 4 scenes of people talking.
Yeah, I think it's just like 2.5 unfinished movies or something, just slammed together, and in the end, there was no monster.
That was the greatest ending, where they're just like, as mysteriously as it appeared, it disappeared, and no one knew what it was. The man went back home, and everything was fine. The end. Like, they built tension for freaking 20 minutes of meeting the monster, and then like, actually, there was no monster. The
Goodbye.
end.
We've hit 80 minutes. It's time to leave.
We got your dollar. We tricked you guys into thinking this was like a monster movie at the beach by calling it a go-go.
And you just came here to fill up your girlfriend anyway, so who cares?
Yeah, what do you care? You snuck in a bottle of Thunderbird and you felt her up. You did the popcorn trick.
That was an invention of the 80s, Henry.
I'm sorry. And also on the show, the overseas animation was handled by Rough Draft. They were doing a lot of that then.
I think it's a good-looking show.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
There's a few weird takes in this show where I feel like a gag is ruined because of some overseas complications or people not understanding the intent of the scene. But in terms of how the show looks and moves, I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the color palette of it is great. Like it's the sharp colors of both Norb and Dag just kind of really pull you in, and also like because they're normally indoors against their like purple backgrounds. It's a really inviting color scheme to the show. It does really remind me of The Simpsons too.
Yeah,
because you've got, especially with Norb being this like kind of yellow tannish dude, you need these deep purple backgrounds so much to make him really pop out of it.
Yeah, I think 90s cartoons were all about very bizarre color choices that are hideous in some ways, but also very compelling. Like, what is this? What am I looking at? Why is it this color?
And when they were working on the show, which went for 62 episodes,
wow.
Mitch talks about how they felt they did get pretty good creative freedom from Nickelodeon, but also they still had, the censor notes and everything. And he definitely got the sense that by the late 90s, Nick was getting more protective of things and a lot less loose than they were in the early 90s. He talked about how, like, somebody pulls an axe out to threaten the other character, and they're like, you need to make this axe bigger and sillier looking because it's too scary if it's a realistic size. One of their craziest ones was that they had Dag tell Norbert to shut up, and an executive felt that was wrong. Like, we don't want to inspire kids to tell each other to shut up.
That's the worst thing a kid could do.
So they changed it to hush up, and they switched it out.
That's much better.
One of the craziest, funniest ones that I never got as a kid, even though I watched these episodes. So they constantly got these notes to be like kid-friendly, make it more kid-friendly. So they did an episode about an evil gunslinger from the Old West named Kid Friendly.
Ah, that's great.
Who would kill people with kindness. Yeah, it was really fun. I never got that was such an inside joke that they're like, well, Kid Friendly will be one of our most murderous characters in the show's history. Also funny in the show's behind the scenes is that I think there was at least one episode where they met the younger sisters of the Angry Beavers. They were the ones whose birth kicked them out of the home in the first episode. When they appeared, they were both voiced by Mitch Schauer's children, his 2 daughters. And he'd actually pitched a spinoff to Nickelodeon around this time that would star those 2 girls.
It sounds like a spinoff baked into the show.
Yeah.
Like a backdoor pilot.
And I mean, who best for the spinoff than his 2 daughters? Why not? And he talked about how they drew up stuff. They wrote a script, a pilot. They even recorded the voices for it. And the narrator, which Angry Beavers has a lot of narrator characters, he got Alyssa Milano to do the voice for the narration. So he was Mitch was pretty good at getting a lot of movie stars to do his stuff. He also talked about another unmade episode that sounds amazing to me. So in Dag For Night and Up All Night, you get to see a little bit of Oxnard Montalvo, whose name is just a combination of SoCal City names.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's so odd. So the only double-length episode they did was a Halloween special in season 2, which saw them meet the real Oxnard Montalvo and other actors from their B movies. And then the monsters from their B movies come to life and they have to fight them. And the episode had guest stars of Adrienne Barbeau and Peter Graves. And Mitch Schauer jokes about how he really annoyed Peter Graves with his deep knowledge of Peter Graves' bad movies, and he'd rather forget that
They conquered the world? Was
yeah.
one of them, I think.
And one of them with giant grasshoppers. He was in the giant grasshopper
Deadly
movie.
Mantis?
I think that's that's another MST3K classic.
I'm Peter Graves.
I love when they make fun of Peter Graves. He was also in Parts the Clonus Project, wasn't he?
Maybe. Yeah, I think he was. I miss all those biography jokes. Can't make a biography joke anymore.
I think he can't even release that Parts the Clonus one anymore because it's like part of a lawsuit. The person who made it sued Michael Bay and the people who made The Island because it's the exact plot of Parts the Clonus.
I think they would want it out there in circulation so people could know. They're cloning Bex.
Maybe they made it worth too much for MST3K to be able to license it. But so that was their Halloween special in season 2. He had pitched to do another Halloween special later on down the lines that instead of being a tribute to the B movies of the 50s would be a tribute to the 70s Hammer horror films.
Oh, geez.
And that he wrote a script. They even recorded a voice track that featured Terrence Stamp, Michael York, Jonathan Rhys-Davies, and Sheena Easton, all in guest roles.
That's crazy.
I can't believe they actually got all of them to record.
To be on the Beaver Show.
Like as spec, too. And but Nickelodeon turned it down both as a special, and then I think in a Hail Mary pass, he's like, well, if you wanted to do a movie, this would totally be an Angry Beavers movie.
He had big dreams for Angry Beavers. Spinoffs,
really
movies.
Yeah. I mean, it was a highly rated show on Nick. Like, I think next to, Hey Arnold, it was the top rated thing in the late 90s. But I think what hurt it was after the show premiered in 97, its final new episode aired in 2001. Like early 2001.
Post SpongeBob, when it was like, who cares about anything?
SpongeBob came in the middle.
I just realized I stole your fire.
Yeah, it's fine.
It was interesting to see what Nick tried between, the Ren and Stimpy fade out period and SpongeBob. Mm-hmm. Like things like Cat Dog and this and Kablam. Yeah.
Mitch talks about how they were all like bros, the creators of the shows, because pretty much all of them were working out of the Burbank Nick Animation Studio then. Like he knew the guys who were working on Cat Dog and Hillenberg at this as well. Like they were all a pretty tight-knit group then. But yeah, definitely SpongeBob fucked it up. Like Angry Beavers is nothing in the face of SpongeBob. Pretty much no Nicktoon can compare to SpongeBob in popularity. Rugrats is probably the closest.
But SpongeBob still burns pretty bright, and it's going to get a third movie. Yeah. I guess Rugrats technically did get 3 movies though, with Go Wild or whatever that Thornberrys crossover was.
Yeah, that can you believe that Klasky Csupo made that many movies and like basically doesn't exist now?
Yeah, that's crazy. Again, we went to the abandoned possibly abandoned building. But yeah, I guess this was existing at the same time as like the sort of post quote-unquote cancellation Rugrats revival when it was also very huge.
Yeah, the new season of Rugrats and All Real Monsters was airing its last seasons while this was going on too. And yeah, I think Angry Beavers, it had its time in the sun, but I don't think it ever got that big. It never got video games when it was new.
Not even like a shitty Game Boy Color game. That surprises me.
Yeah, I know. But the timing just wasn't right for it. I mean, maybe it was like Nick wasn't investing in Game Boy Color games then or something. It just came at the wrong time for Nick Interactive. By the time the PlayStation 2 era rolled around, they were happy to make all these video games. But in that late 32-bit, 64-bit era, it was a bad time for the Beavers. So the Beavers would later appear as playable characters in the Nicktoons racing game, and also as non-playable trophies in Nicktoons baseball.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Get him in there.
They can't even play baseball. That's pretty rude.
They can hit the
to
ball
those
with their
guys.
tails, right?
That sounds complicated to animate.
Yeah,
though.
it does. I'm sorry.
And so the show gets canceled in late 2000. They're working on the last episodes, and the final episode is a thing of wonder and myth with many different sources talking about it, that I think I've pieced together what I think happened finally.
I've heard your
about
theory,
it.
and I think you're right.
Yeah, though I do expand on it a little bit since I told you about it last night. I found one more source that Mitch finally did comment on it. So they're working on the show. They're getting to the last episode. And the show has already been pretty meta at times, too. But Mitch and the other writers, they want to do a last episode that is the Beavers realizing they were canceled. They write a script where Norb gets a letter in the mail and tells Dag, we've been canceled. This is our last episode. And basically we're dead. And it's about learning. He teaches Dag that first that they're cartoons, and second that their lives are over, and they kind of go through the stages of grief in the episode too. Now, here's where it gets complicated. That as Mitch tells it, it went up the chain to an executive who he says no longer works at Nickelodeon as of 2 years ago. He said this executive read the episode as, "You're killing the Beavers in the last episode, and I will not allow this to happen." So they wrote I believe they start with text scripts on this show because if it goes like writing, then storyboard credit. So I think it is a written script that then goes to boarding. I do believe it was boarded, or at least to a level it was boarded, because an artist named Maureen Mascarina, she worked on a lot of Nick shows in the late 90s and still to this day as a board revisionist then. And on her portfolio online, posted what looks to be very real boards of lines from this episode of the characters seeing what it looks like when a beaver is actually electrocuted instead of what it looks like when a cartoon beaver is electrocuted, which is a very disturbing scene. So at the very least, that bit was boarded, and it looks like it was done at the time, or it is a very convincing fake storyboard drawn by a fan.
It's not uncommon for storyboards to be produced for unproduced episodes. Like Mission Hill has a ton of unproduced episodes that have both a storyboard and a voice track, and you can watch those online.
Yeah, you're totally right. When it hits the boarding stage, that's like the last time you can pull the brakes on a production, because once you send it overseas and get the actual animation happening, stopping it then, you've wasted a lot of money. But if you're going to stop the borders, you still lost money on and the borders' time and effort, but it's a way less amount of money than before. So the episode got canceled internally while they were writing it. I think one thing that complicates this to make it seem fake, like a fake story that was made up by the creators of Angry Beavers to spread like we had a ending that was too fucked up for Nickelodeon, man. One thing that complicates it is that Horvitz and Bakay, they recorded seemingly the script, like that they had the script and they recorded their lines, but they're also goofing around in it.
There's a lot of goofery in that clip.
Yes, yeah. And then they released it in 2006, but it ends with them saying April Fools at the end of it. So my first thought was like, did Horvitz get together with Nick and say, let's write a pretend script and read it and release it? But I think more likely they did get the old script. They read it together in 2006 and then released it like, we found the old recording, guys.
Okay.
And released that as an April Fool's. That's my belief now.
And apparently it was released on a podcast. So if you were listening to podcasts in 2006, I know I was, but I'm a freak.
But most people were not.
Yeah.
So that complicates Bye Bye Beavers even more. One thing that really bugged me in my search was like on one wiki about Lost Media, they had some story where they thought the episode was going to air, which is just like, if you shouldn't be doing a Wikipedia for Lost Media if you don't realize this show was never actually produced and never got to the animation stage. But The episode ends with them realizing that by not being animated anymore, they are basically dead, but instead they will actually be rerun forever and live in living death forever as in perpetuity reruns.
So it's sort of like what Mighty Max did in a way, where it's justifying the use of reruns forever.
Though, here's a couple of choice lines from it of them talking about their upcoming demise.
Norby, what happens when you're over?
Oh, it's not so bad.
No?
If a cartoon's good, even if it isn't, it's rerun incarnated.
Ooh, does that hurt?
No. Only when you get the later checks. The cartoon being over guys rerun it over and over, and they make lots of well-deserved money.
Which they share with the people who made the cartoon, right?
Boo! Woo! Right. So you see, it's all for the better.
Right.
Even though we're vanishing, we'll be back over and over again at virtually no cost to the network.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I love how he especially screams at virtually no cost to the network and how undeserving that these reruns make tons of money for everybody but the people who made them.
Except for the later checks, yeah. And I do like the crosstalk in there. It's very natural.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes it sound like you could believe it was recorded in 2000, but if you hear the full one, they're goofing around of calling each other like Nick and Salem even a couple times.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's why it more feels like they're faking a reading of the script from 2000 when they're really recording it in 2006 and just goofing around. But I do believe that this script was created with the intention of being the final episode, and then Nick killed it.
In that Vice article you linked me to, I was reading that Nick had a policy where we don't want people to know this is the last episode because otherwise they'd be disappointed or stop watching or complain or whatever. So it's interesting to see, like, if you go back to previous Nicktoons, that previous final episodes would have like a wink to you, like Doug graduates. And actually the final episode of Ren and Stimpy never aired on Nick because it's, of course, grotesque and weird. Ren dies in it. He dies and goes to heaven. It's called The Last Temptation of Ren.
Oh, okay.
I mean, Ren dies in like half the episodes. It's no different than any other episode, but there's a sort of sense of finality to it. So in their own way, creators would often wink to the audience like, this is the last one we could do.
Well, you even hear it now when shows try or do have continuity and a growing story in it in kids shows. It's still somewhat frowned upon by executives because it does hurt your ability to rerun things. Like, kids know they go in a certain order. If they see a rerun, it makes them hate reruns more, I think. That's the fear.
And now with social media, you just make people angry if they know you're canceling something they like.
Well, nobody even wants a rerun now.
Yeah,
If you get a rerun, you're like, what the fuck? Also in that Vice article, I really did like Nick Bakay doesn't give a shit about Nickelodeon at all.
I think that Vice article has like a little subtweet of him because they quote him and Nick Bakay says something like, quote, Nickelodeon just doesn't care about artists.
Oh, yeah,
says Paul Blart writer Nick Bakay.
That's true, yeah.
I think it's just like, were they being mean to him?
I do think that's a little,
yeah. Oh, sorry, you have the actual quote.
Yes, yeah. They're not very artist-friendly. I remember walking into Mitch's office and seeing Norb and Dag stuffed animals. I said to him, wow, those are really cool. Where did you get those? And he replied with no irony, Toys R Us. He had to go buy his own toys, and he created the whole fucking thing.
He could have expensed those toys, I bet.
I think his lawyer would have let him get away with that, or his accountant, yeah. But that is funny that Nick probably was used to being treated slightly better by executives in primetime live-action sitcoms like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, as opposed to the more exploitative world of animation, for sure. I think that's always eye-opening to actors who work in live action and primetime adult content, that when you get into children's stuff like video games or cartoons, that then you see just how exploited every single person is and treated awfully. But yes, you can find the whole script of Horvitz and Bakay reading it themselves. So you can get a pretty good sense of what the episode would have been. But Beavers got canceled in 2001. Mitch Schauer went on to do a bunch of different stuff. One of his big things he's proud of is that he worked on a live action pilot with the Jim Henson Company called The Sam Plenty Show with Paul Rugg.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
I guess this was early 2000s, late 90s. Okay.
I couldn't find footage of it out there, but he was really happy to work with Paul Rugg on stuff. Like Paul Rugg seems like a pretty fun guy to work with and a very creative dude who just always has tons of energy.
Oh yeah, he had a previous Freakazoid connection. That makes sense.
And also post Angry Beavers, Schauer worked on some comic stuff. He worked on a lot of other shows. His big thing that brought him back to Los Angeles after moving, he moved to Germany briefly as well, because I think a lot of animation production is happening in that country these days. But he also worked on Marvel's Superhero Squad, the Kitty Marvel show from the early 2010s. That was not his only animation adaptation of Marvel characters, because there was a Hulk series called Hulk and Agents of Smash that I haven't checked out, but I'm more interested in doing it because one of the exec producers on it was Eric Radomski of BTAS fame. Yeah, my problem always was, and I think that's why he said Freakazoid had all this money, Marvel animation stuff is always strapped for cash. Like the Warner cartoons for DC characters always looks like it has like double the budget of what any Marvel cartoon has. But I would bet that Schauer, and he worked with a bunch of other like Freakazoid folks. He said he worked on the Hulk show because he knew Radomski from their time on both working in early Freakazoid. Those are his credits. As for the Beavers ever coming back, there were rumors that they'd be in this big Nicktoons crossover movie, but that's totally dead now.
I remember hearing about the movie, and I kind of wanted it to happen.
But I mean, now they can't even put out the frickin' Rocco movie on Nick television.
Yeah.
So clearly the winds of change have blown at Nicktoons over what Nicktoons get to come back and what don't. Despite what that last episode of Angry Beavers would say, the show actually just doesn't exist anymore. They are actually dead, having like co-signed to nothingness.
They're not on like the 4th Nickelodeon rerun channel now, or
well, who knows though? When Viacom and CBS finally launched their co-branded thing,
they're going to lead with a new Garfield series. I bet
for sure.
We got him, folks. We got him.
100% right. Maybe Mitch Schauer work on that too. Who knows? But that's it for the Beavers. There's not much new for them going on these days. I doubt we'll ever get new stuff again. You can find the DVDs by Shout Factory. It's on most streaming things for purchase. There was something on Amazon's trying to do this thing now where they want you to buy channels, and one is like the Nick rerun channel for $8 a month.
$8 a month?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Which, I mean, is a one-time month payment is cheaper than buying one season of Angry Beavers on there, but still, I don't much care for that. But all right, why don't we take a break? When we come back, we will talk about Up All Night and Dag For Night from Angry Beavers.
Went down to the beach looking for some fun. Saw the sweetest girl ever under the sun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa. From the highest mountains to the deep blue sea, I know that she's the only gal for me. She's the prettiest thing that I ever seen. I'm the king of the surf, and she's my little beach queen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're angry. They're beavers. They'll be back soon.
Behold, the industrious beaver.
Oh, look, it's Nick's new Nicktoon.
Yay, the Angry Beavers.
That Norby, he's one dental trendsetter.
Norb, you are the coolest.
And he has the respect of all the forest animals.
I'm gonna grow my teeth too.
That is precisely what I'm going to do.
Copy, Beaver.
Am not.
I too.
Am not.
Go chew wood.
The Angry Beavers, admired by real beavers everywhere. Every Sunday morning at 10:30, 9:30 Central, only on Nick.
Welcome to the commercial break. I'm Henry Gilbert, a spooty spoot face.
Hey everybody, it's Bob, and I'm still very skeptical about how angry these beavers truly are. I need proof, damn it.
But as we explore the lives of these snippy beavers,
there we go.
We want to thank you for listening to this week's podcast, What a Cartoon, as well as our sister podcast, Talking Simpsons, comes out every week thanks to the support of listeners like you who pledge at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. The Talking Simpsons Network couldn't exist without the pledges from folks like you.
That's right, and if you want to help the show and get a lot of great stuff in return, please go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. And if you sign up at the $5 level, you will get all of these podcasts 1 week ahead of time and ad-free. And then you will also have access to the paywall podcast behind the $5 paywall. Everything we've made for the past 2+ years, you will get instant access to, and that includes all of our mini-series. That includes Talking Futurama, Talking Critic, Talking the Hill, and an upcoming mini-series coming this fall for patrons only. There are also dozens upon dozens of podcasts you haven't heard if you're not on the Patreon yet. Lots of interviews with Simpsons writers and staff members, end-of-season wrap-ups, community podcasts, deleted scene specials, and so much more. I would dare say there are now over 100 bonus podcasts you have never heard if you are not a patron. And if you want to be a patron, go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons and sign up at the $5 level. But we also have a higher $10 level featuring monthly mega long podcasts, almost too long to post on Patreon. There are file size limits. We are scraping against them, folks.
That's right. If you want to live in luxury like Oxnard Montalvo, then you need to sign up at the premium $10 a month level, where you'll get access to the monthly What a Cartoon Movie podcast, where we talk about a different animated feature film once a month for between 3 and 4 hours. They are so long, and we have so much fun going super in-depth into them. The most recent one was about Angry Beavers' fellow Nicktoon brother, Rocco's Modern Life, for the Static Cling film that just came out on Netflix. In September, we're going to do another awesome one, and you'll get access to the whole back catalog once you sign up at the $10 a month level. Too many to list, but some of my favorites are Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Akira, A Goofy Movie, Aladdin, Tiny Toons I Spent My Summer Vacation, and tons more. You want to hear all of these at the Talking Simpsons Network for $10 a month. You get such a big bang for your buck, you won't know what to do with all this content. So one more time, that's patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And regardless of what level you sign up at, it's very, very easy to listen to all of our bonus podcasts, just like you listen to your normal free podcast. When you sign up, you are given access to a code that you always have access to, and you just plug that into whatever podcast app or program you use, or you can just use Patreon's app to listen to our bonus podcast. Either way, it's very easy to fit our bonus podcast into your standard podcasting lifestyle.
So please consider signing up at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. And now let's go back to the 1997 in the world of beavers.
Because the world can wait no longer, the new season of Angry Beavers is here. It's a whole batch of brand new adventures with those two toothy Nicktoons.
What do you have to say to your fans?
It's splendiferous, Beaverama.
Tell us about the new shows.
Well, they smell better than last year's.
Are you actually a weasel?
Bite your tongue, snout boy.
Yes, brand new episodes of the Angry Beavers every Sunday at 10:30, 9:30 Central. On your first place to turn for tunes, Nickelodeon.
They're back, and they're still angry.
So we'll start off with the second half of the first episode, Up All Night, which first want to remark on that opening sequence that's so awesome.
It's very pretty.
They did that in 3 weeks.
Wow.
It was amazing to find out from an interview that Mitch talked about how as he tells it, they'd boarded out an opening, but that didn't fully get accepted. So then it just kind of fell to the back burner. And they said that as they were getting ready to launch the show, they were at a meeting, a late night meeting with Mary Harrington, and she's like, so when's the opening too? He's like, So he said, like, overall 3 weeks to be finished. Like, that his line producer, Michael Lisa, actually drew the horns, even though he was not hired in an animation position, but he had an animation background. Mitch did a lot of the animation himself, as did a lot of the other like borders.
That's a real in-house feeling based on how smooth it looks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was all done over a weekend. The animation itself, like the boarding and layout and everything, that was the weekend, then shipped off. The song was written first, I think, and then they laid it out to the sound and then shipped it to rough draft as fast as they could. But yeah, that the opening is one of their best looking things, into that it was done under such duress is pretty amazing. And yeah, that opening by Burchett, he's really good at imitating these old-timey like
yeah, again, that's my favorite part of the show, that opening. I will leave that part on. I don't think the show is bad, by the way, but I just love the music in it.
And this first episode is written by Victor Wilson, who would most famously be the voice of one of the announcers in MCX, the American version of Takeshi's Castle. I think it says. One of the commentators is called Victor. He voiced him. And he also worked on the film Cats and Dogs, as did other people I'll talk about later. Sadly, though, Victor Wilson, he passed away November 3rd, 2015. Aww. No longer with us. And the director for this short was Robert Hughes, who directed 28 episodes overall. This episode was boarded by Mitch Schauer and Michael Gerard. And Gerard would be the second most prolific director on the show after Robert Hughes. I think Hughes was like top director in the first two seasons. I think Michael Gerard took over in the seasons 3 and 4. I think that makes this feel more like the first episode than the preceding episode, that Mitch is one of the storyboarders. Like, showrunners don't often board their own episodes.
I watched a bit of the first half, and I think you're right. We really don't need it. Mm-hmm. The origin story. It feels like they're overthinking it. You just need the characters and them having fun. Like Ren and Stimpy, we don't know where they came from. They're just together in a house, and it's fine.
Yeah, and especially when at the end of their origin story, it's just, well, they went to a bunch of weird places that rejected them, and then a bunch of logs fell together and they had a house. The end. That's
that could
where
have
their
been.
House is.
I mean, I guess because the theme song came together so quickly, maybe the original theme song was the premise, more talking about the premise.
And they do live in Oregon. It's later referred to. That's why it has a very Pacific Northwest vibe to it. And this does feel a lot like the Snowbound short, in that it's just the two of them locked together and the two of them getting on each other's nerves. Like, that really captures what's special about the Angry Beavers chemistry. And, it takes me back to when I was a kid at sleepovers, and even into my 20s, I'd have friends who would be like, it's only 4 a.m. Come on, let's stay up. Let's have fun. And I was the person who loved to sleep and was like, no, let's go to bed.
I came to this sleepover to sleep, gentlemen.
Sleep is in the title there. But of course, if you're at a sleepover with teen boys in the 90s, at least, they will torture you if you're the first person to fall asleep. So
unfair.
It's a painful thing.
You're over there living a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they are totally fine and normal people now. But I'm just more of a morning person in general. I really don't like staying up late. I like to go. If I have my druthers most days, it's like, boy, 11 p.m. We're really going late tonight here.
I usually have a 7 a.m. wake up call because I'm a freak. I hate sleeping.
That's also, even if my husband didn't wake up at 6 a.m. some days, I still would be like, oh, my eyes are open. Like on weekends, I just can't. After 8, I have to be awake. I can maybe push it to 8 sometimes. So, though this made me think when I was a teen, like, oh, when I'm an adult, I could stay up all night if I wanted to, right?
Have you ever stayed up for an entire day?
Yeah.
Not counting like trips to Japan?
I mean, that also counts, but I would say...
Not in my book.
Okay.
Well, I mean, outside of that, I'm just curious.
Yes, I did. Yeah, a couple times I had a real Norbert type friend who was like, oh, you a chicken? You can't stay up all night? Like, you're going to miss fun stuff. And it just turned into like this kind of, pissing contest thing of who can stay up the latest. So yeah, I did. I think I stayed awake from like 8 a.m. to noon the next day, like twice, and it was no fun. I just felt like a zombie, and I spent the next 2 days recovering from it.
I did a few of those as a teen just to see, like, what am I missing when I'm not sleeping? It turns out I could play a lot more video games, but I have to drink a lot of coffee, and then I ruin my sleep schedule. So
Maybe that's also why I was no good at staying up all night, because I don't do caffeine. So when I
gotta get on that jolt.
My friends also would make fun of me too when 2 years in a row I had birthday sleepovers for my birthday. All my cool friends come over. We'll stay up late. We'll play video games and watching the new anime VHSs I got for my birthday. But I was always the first person to go to sleep. I'd be like, guys, come on, aren't you tired? They're like, no, we're enjoying Super Monkey Ball. Let's keep going. And so I was Mr. Boring, and I was very much Dag in this episode. But as the Beavers are about to put themselves down for the night, which did you notice in both these episodes they take about 30 seconds of kind of naturalistic setting stuff before a character actually says a line.
Yeah, they kind of take their time.
I wonder why, because it moves at such speed once the story gets going, but it kind of reminds me of how Rugrats would waste the first 20 seconds. Maybe it was an internal thing of kids need a chance to sit down and watch it. They're not going to hear the first 10 seconds.
With Rugrats, you'd be inside the oven or the refrigerator, and the character would take something out and then close the door again, and then 45 seconds in the show would start.
Yeah, which also makes writing easier. It's shorter, but
that's one less minute.
But we then, after all those exterior shots, head into the bunk beds of our beavers.
Dag, will you quit moving around so much?
I'm sorry, Norb, but I can't help it. I'm not sleepy yet.
Well, neither am I, but you don't see me bouncing around all over the place.
Okay, sorry. Jeez.
Hey, Dag, if we're not tired, why are we in bed?
Well, the sun went down, and Mom always made us go to bed when the sun went down.
Oh, yeah, that's right. But Dag, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't live with Mom anymore, do we?
No, we're on our own, duh.
So theoretically, we shouldn't have to go to bed until we want to, right?
Well, yeah, I guess so.
So what you're saying is we could stay up until 8 or 9 or even 10 o'clock if we wanted to.
No, I don't...
Or we could even stay up all night. Great idea, Dag. Come on, let's go. Woo!
My idea?
Woo!
I don't think there's any real continuity in the series, but this feels like it's meant to follow the first episode, where it's just we can make our own rules now that we're out of the den, the family den.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's definitely supposed to feel like it's supposed to be taken with the first episode. This is their first night in their new apartment as cool bachelor brothers living together and making their own time. I like, too, that when they go to bed, they put on clothes. They're nude most of the time.
Oh, you're right. That's awesome.
But Dag's super cute little kid PJs with his oven mitt over his tail.
I love that design. I love the design of Dag.
And that Norb always comes off as more adult because he's even wearing the cool guy, large boxers and football jersey to bed. Man, Horowitz is just so good at all just the restless noises. You're I'm sorry. I also like that he gets pulled into it of Norbert just tricking him again, well, as you would say, it's your idea. We got to do it.
I do enjoy him manipulating his brother, his 4 minutes younger brother throughout these episodes.
He has a real scheming face. This is his scheming face, as they'd say in Harvey Birdman. I think that's really what Nick really brings to the character too, that he brings a lot of smooth guy, quick talking feel to it. Not exactly like a car salesman, I suppose, but definitely a very smooth dude.
He doesn't know a lot about the world, but he pretends he does. Mm-hmm. He's able to fake it.
Well, and he'll always seem more worldly than his little brother, for sure. And another, just to let you know, Mitch Schauer's generation, we get a parody of a Yoo-Hoo sign, and then also music ripping off Spanish Flea back to back.
Yeah, when that started, I was like, is this actually oh, no, it's not. But it's just it's a few notes off.
I thought for sure I was on what Match Game used that song.
Yeah.
Right? Just it has the metronome sound.
The TikTok song, yeah.
But then it goes, It's a good ripoff.
Yeah, the parents watching knew what they were trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Dag enters the room. He sees that Norb is bouncing on the couch, which they got a real springy couch, and they're already destroying the house that they have, that they were gifted by all the logs falling down perfectly in their dam. And it does make this bachelor pad look pretty cool. I think I kind of have a similar bachelor pad to theirs. I think about it.
I got to jump on that couch.
No, that IKEA couch can't take
it's
that
from
kind
IKEA,
of
please.
damage. Yeah. It's a good for a $600 IKEA couch, but it will not bounce you. Well, they have such high ceilings too. Like,
they really do.
They got a fucking loft, those brothers, like out of big or something.
They're also very small.
Well, yeah, that's true. It might even just be like a 2-foot tall ceiling there. One thing they don't realize, and a lesson they could learn in this episode, is that the freedom of doing whatever you want in your house is that your mom isn't going to clean it up now. It's your problem if you make a mess.
Or take you to the hospital.
That too, yes, yeah. And as they get into a jumping contest, I really like the overhead shot of the two of them like flying up to the screen. It's good perspective. I like that. They play around. That kind of creativity is needed in a show like this.
They might have telegraphed him about to hit the light fixture a little too long. Where
Yeah.
I was expecting something different to happen, but what they telegraphed actually happened. The wild take is cool, but I was like, you're setting this up for too long.
Yeah, it's something you get. It's the type of thing you get. This poor pacing in an early episode. I think they would have learned more to get to it sooner. But I think maybe they thought the joke was in the tension of like that you're like Norb watching like, oh, he's getting so close. Is he going to hit it? But yeah, if they were going to go with the tension and string it out that long to let even a 4-year-old know what's about to happen, then something different should happen other than the thing you expect.
I was expecting him to be alerted to the fact that he would hit the fixture and then just get off the couch, but it still falls on him or something.
Yeah.
Like something to subvert it.
Or he falls on a different thing that electrocutes him. But yes, a jumping contest doesn't go so well.
Dag, I don't think that's such a good idea.
Ha! You're just afraid I'll beat you, that's all. Norby's afraid to jump high.
No, Dag, you don't understand.
Norby's a chicken. Come on, chicken boy. What are you afraid of?
I did enjoy his neon bones. He's
That
lit up like
was
a neon
great.
sign. There are some really cool wild takes. Again, not quite as graphically violent as Ren and Stimpy or Rocco. You can see the softness coming in, especially in the second part of this podcast where Daggett is constantly crushed.
Yeah,
by
not
a
enough
UFO.
horrible stuff happens to him, and they definitely have a softer show here than Rocco and Ren and Stimpy. But it's a different execs. It's like time. 3 years in animation development is a giant space of time, and they were definitely getting to a softer, less boogery Nickelodeon at this time.
They got that freak Vanessa coffee out of their network.
I mean, the Angry Beavers title, that even just feels like such a leftover of that time for sure. And but yeah, the way it's also is like Horvitz's Roger Rabbit, kind of like. That was really great too, and the way it just spits him onto Norbert.
I did like how the fixture kind of fires him out like a cannon,
and that knocks off both of their clothes, which explains why they're naked the rest of the episode. But I like Norbert gets hit and kind of flies out of his clothes like Charlie Brown style, I think. Horvitz also, in this next clip here, where he's playing Dag wanting to go back to bed, I really appreciate how well he plays like this tired and kind of angry character who's also just innocent. He's just like, no, I just want to go back to bed. Like,
I'm going back to bed.
Back to bed? We're just getting started. Come on, Dag. You don't want to go to bed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do.
But, Dag, do you know why Mom made us go to bed at sunset?
To prevent injury?
No! Because that's when all the fun stuff happens. All right, but if you're going to go to bed, you're going to miss out on doing your favorite thing. You know, that thing Mom would never let us do.
I love his little twiddly fingers on
Yeah.
the thing.
Again, it's a different era. It's not so overly sound affected as previous shows.
Not as many farts as on Rocco,
No.
that's for sure. That feels like one of the first times in the show where they got a reading from Nick and they're like, boy, the way he says thing, like we need to get a little extra stink on the animation too for that embellishment that he says.
Yeah, with lots of shows, you can see how the animators are inspired by getting a great voice track.
Yeah, and that they'd only get better with it. And there's two scenes in this that are pretty much all the voices. Like this next bit here with Crank Calls, which is such an imitatable act. I can't believe they got away with it.
I was thinking that too. Like a kid kid could easily do this.
If they're mad the characters are saying shut up and a kid will say shut up, I'm shocked that they're showing kids that you can just dial a random number and annoy somebody over the phone. Though that doesn't work now because who answers the telephone?
That's why you move on to cyberbullying.
That's why everyone's on Argument the website, which is
Exactly.
all calling people bedbugs and whatnot. That'll date this.
Debate my family, Henry.
And they pick up their phone, which is obviously supposed to look like Bullwinkle.
Yeah, I read that was one of the inspirations for the series. Jay Ward cartoons.
Totally. I mean, the funny animal design definitely feels out of the Jay Ward style, especially their little eyes together, too.
And the Rocket squirrel buck teeth.
Oh, yeah. They're not too far apart from Rocket in their designs, though not as friendly. They have a lot of jagged edges to them.
Yeah.
In design.
I do love Daggett's pointy teeth, like sharp pointy teeth.
I feel like if I wouldn't want to own stuffed animals of these guys because they'd be itchy. Like, Stimpy just looks like a big stupid pillow you want to hug, but these guys just look like itchy things. Meanwhile, like Doug or Rugrats, they're humans. You don't want to hug them.
I don't want to hug Doug. He needs it, but I'm not doing it.
You know what? Doug needs some harsher life lessons.
That's true. He needs a shove.
But yes, it's time for some prank phone calls.
Prank phone call time!
Yeah, prank phone calls. Woo! Let's do it.
All right, prank phone calls.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is going to be great. I love prank calls.
If you're afraid to.
Afraid?
I'll go first.
Afraid? I'm not afraid.
Dag, it's okay. I understand.
Give me that. That was great!
Let me show you how it's done.
Ephraim's All Night Deli, how can I help you?
Do you have chicken necks?
Yes, we do.
Wear a turtleneck sweater, no one will notice.
That was so great! Let me try.
Sure. Go for it.
Hello?
Hey, chicken neck, you should wear a sweater.
Daggett, is that you?
Mom?
What are you doing up past your bedtime?
It hit me only in the second viewing that Norb is the one who dials it, so it was him pranking his brother.
I didn't catch that the first time I saw it.
It wasn't just the Dag dialing the wrong number or accidentally calling his mom. Norb calls his mom to fuck with Dag.
That was no accident.
I also really love Norb's like almost comedian timing of saying such a classic burn as that. I think I first was introduced to the idea of prank calling in that Pee Wee Herman episode. Do you remember that Playhouse episode?
I think so. I mean, was that in the phone booth? Like when he would call people in the phone booth?
Because his next door neighbor, the bully puppet guy, he pressured him to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Randy?
It was Randy who did it. Yeah, that evil. I hated that puppet.
I love the design on that puppet.
A perfect capturing of a 50s bully in puppet form. That episode told me that prank calling was wrong, and so although I think definitely when I was a dumb teenager I tried it. Like we all
Oh, of course I did,
people. Yes, yeah. It's wrong, and anytime we've been prank called, that's karmic retribution for us.
But again, don't answer your phone.
If
someone's calling, it's bad news.
At any cashier type job where you ever prank called, I did get that a couple times.
Oh, let me think. I don't think so, actually.
Oh man,
yeah.
I got it from just at working at a video store. People would ask like, "Hey, do you have a porno video or something like that?" Or I got these girls, like it sounded like 12-year-old girls at a sleepover or something asking like, do you guys have these scary movies? I want to show them to my little brother. I was like, no, we don't have that movie. No.
Stop bothering me.
I gave them nothing.
The closest thing I got is when I worked at a game store. It was right by the Sears in the mall. And people would call thinking it was Sears. I don't know why. Maybe the extensions were close to each other. But one of the most tragic ones I got was clearly it was not someone putting on a voice. It was an old lady. And I was like, thanks for calling Software Etc. where you can now reserve, I don't know, Devil May Cry 2. Who knows? And the old lady was like, Sears hearing aid? It's like, no, this is the video game store. Sears hearing aid. I was like, you'll have to call a different number, ma'am. So she probably got hit by a car later that day.
Oh, that's sad. That's sad. Man, you would think at a video game store with all the gamers, you'd get way more calls than that.
I know. Different times. I would get calls from high people asking about things.
Oh, okay.
But they meant well.
They were pranking themselves.
Yeah.
There. Like, well, speaking of getting high, I do think them with the jalapenos in the next scene is supposed to be getting high.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's their silly version of the cartoon metaphor of like, not unlike the Leaning Tower of Cheesa.
Oh, right.
In Goofy movie, jalapenos are their weed replacement.
Instead of jalapenos, they're poppers. There's jalapeno peppers. They're just like eating them straight, which is weird why there's a gag where one of them gets a bunch of them shoved in his mouth and he reacts like, you've just been eating them plain the entire time. I don't get the logic of that.
And the wild take's not wild enough for when it happens either.
I think that was just the animation goof. Like, something was miscommunicated.
Yeah, they even have like the classic cartoony fire alarm sound going off of like, oh man, Porky Pig ate too many hot things, but his reaction is just like, yuck. Like, it's just like, ew. That's all he's got. Well, but yeah, the way they're sucking on jalapenos then biting them down is so gross. Like, yuck. I am not. I am the opposite of a spicy boy. I do not like my spicy foods.
Jalapenos are baby spice.
I don't like them.
They're just like baby spice from the Spice Girls. Now, Scary Spice, you want to get the ghost peppers.
Man, no way. I hope to never be on that Hot Wings show because I think by Wing 2 I'd be like, I'm done. Thank you.
What is the Hot Wings show?
Oh, Hot Ones. You never seen the...
No.
Oh, man, it's the biggest hit on YouTube. Like millions of views, everyone.
I don't get YouTube ads because I pay to get them out of my life.
So Sean Evans, who used to be an interview on MTV, you maybe saw him on like MTV News in our youths. He has a show called Hot Ones where they ask celebrities questions, and he's a really good interviewer who does like extreme research on people, but he asks them questions as they're eating increasingly hot chicken wings, or if there's a vegan celeb, chicken wing replacements.
Interesting.
And so it's just, you get to see like Scarlett Johansson going like, oh my God, this is so fucking hot. What was the question? What, like, it's a really fun, and they're like 40-minute like real interviews with people.
That's a long time.
Oh man, I can't believe you've never seen these. They're really fun. If I could send you to one, the popular one that's getting memed a lot right now is the Idris Elba one, because he gets like really animatedly angry at it.
Wow. I don't know. Those make me kind of anxious and upset because there was, I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, someone started one where it was like gaming people eating hot peppers and
the
talking
hot
about
pepper
stuff.
Challenge. Yep, yeah.
And it just made me upset. I have too much empathy. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, you can feel for both of them because Sean isn't he is torturing them, but he is eating all the same wings as them. For him to ask a question, he has to also eat the hot wings. So he's at least doing that.
Okay.
It's they even joke on the thing too of like, so this is what interviews are now, huh? You just have to do a freaking stunt. You can't just ask me about my movie and I tell you about a movie.
That's why in every junket, the people are asked to like play a game or read something or fill out a quiz.
Or like read these lines or reenact steamed hams for us, any of those things. I mean, those are my favorite. Sometimes I fall down these YouTube rabbit holes with my husband of like, why don't we just watch Ryan Reynolds eat Korean barbecue from this Korean channel? Like, let's see what he thinks of. Or like there's this one channel of this British guy who lives in Seoul who he gets to do all the Korean junkets when they go to Seoul for the movies, and he just brings snacks with them of like, here, what do you think of the most popular Korean snack? What do you think of the most popular Korean milk? Like, it's a fun. These are fun videos. They're nothing. I know they're nothing shows, but I don't know. I get more out of watching those celebrity things than the other trashy reality stuff out there.
That's fair enough. Sounds wholesome.
But Hot Ones is a legit good show. Like it's basically a podcast where guys are coughing for half of it, with
chewing on mic.
Yes, yeah. I guess if you don't like seeing chewing, you're not gonna like it. And definitely, there's a couple where people spit things out, and you're like, oh, that's gross. Don't do that. Don't watch the Eric Andre one. I'm gonna warn you.
Oh,
right
of course,
now.
of course not.
One.
Well, you're more squeamish than me, but I can understand why Eric Andre and hot wings would not be a good combination.
But anyway, that's just the whole thing about that as they're eating jalapenos.
It's a hot food tangent.
The trashy shows they like to watch, though, aren't with celebrities, but films from the 50s.
This really was a great idea. I'm glad I thought of it.
Yeah, just the jalapenos, too.
We now return to tonight's Mondo Monster Movie Marathon feature presentation of The Crawling Spleen.
Doctor, what have we done? A spleen with an opposable thumb. Oh, the humanity.
Knock it off, Norb. This is the good part. I want to hear it.
Oh, Jim, help me. It's on my arm.
Sarah, cover your ears so it can't eat your brain. Duck, Sarah, duck.
Oh, Jim,
Look out, Dag. The dreaded spleen is in your ear.
I do like how there are humans in this world, and they're very realistically drawn.
Yeah, not only is it a B-movie style thing, but it's also drawn in the way humans were drawn in Johnny Quest, and also as flatly as they moved, too, that it's more about just like drawing the mouth on an interesting pose instead of full animation for people. Because animating people's tough. It's a lot harder than animating a cute animal.
An Angry Beaver.
Man, that's also Nick Bakay, I think, when they heard him say, taste the jalapenos. Like,
do that with every third line.
Do it all the time.
Vowel shift every 5 sentences.
It'll always be funny. I think
Movie.
I'm really tired of that now that like Deadpool does it all the time of like, wouldn't it be funny if I said this normal word in a weird way?
That's sort of like I think that's a Tim and Eric thing, or it was on Tom Goes to the Mayor. Like Tom would say a word incorrectly and they would have the word at the bottom of the screen.
Oh yes. Yeah. Well, though I like that more because I feel like with Deadpool or Norb here, it's more like he's like kind of arching his eyebrow like, I know how to say this word. I'm
having fun with it, yeah.
Well, meanwhile, Tompy Tears, he is saying it the way he thinks it's supposed to be said. Like,
the joke's on him.
And that it's black and white TV too. I feel like this is the last time they could even make a joke about watching something black and white on television. I don't think they even replay anything that's in black and white unless it's the one channel that has I Love Lucy.
You got to go to My TV or whatever, whatever the new like I'm About to Die station is. Is it My TV?
I think that's the one.
Yeah, it's like if you want episodes of Quincy and other things like that, then that's where you need to head. I'm actually kind of interested in that channel. If I had cable, I'd probably watch it.
That's a big if, though.
Yeah.
And this is the first appearance of Dr. Kautiki, Oxnard Montalvo, and Toluca Lake. That's the woman in the group. Though they are credited as Jim and Sarah in this film, but that's Oxnard and Toluca, which, again, named after a place in...
Toluca Lake is the one I did identify immediately, obviously.
Though she's not voiced by Adrienne Barbeau in this scene. She is in the big special. But I love that these characters, for this one-off joke of them watching late-night monster movies, they are long-running characters in the show. They're basically like, I think every Nicktoon, they had to give the main character at least one person that was their hero, that felt like a mandate almost, like, Timmy Turner loves the Crimson Chin. SpongeBob loves
Mermaid Man and Barnacle
Mermaid
Boy.
Man and Barnacle Boy, yeah.
Muddy Mudskipper.
Muddy Mudskipper, yeah.
Who did Doug like?
The Beats.
The Beats,
those
yeah.
are his favorites. And Reptar with the Rugrats.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And Arnold, I guess Dino Spumoni.
That baseball player?
Oh, that baseball player, too. Well,
Yeah.
I was thinking of
That was a one-episode thing.
Yeah. That was in the first season. But Dino Spumoni, he was a recurring guy he looked up to, too, though. But yeah, I think maybe that was just an above-the-board deal of, like, kids like to look up to heroes. Show that your heroes on the show look up to somebody, too.
And also to have something within the show for the characters to watch, which has been in everything.
Yeah,
Every Nicktoon.
Just watch television on the show. Just like the big heads as well for Rocco watching the. I guess he really looks up to Really, Really Big Man as well.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And then it transitioned to the creator of the Big Heads. Yeah, I got these jokes in '97 because I was watching MST3K. That's probably the only reason I did. Like, I knew the exact bad acting this was going for, and the voice actor on Oxnard especially, he's so good with his like almost kind of Valley Girl like up turn at the end of it to make it sound like a question. Eating your brain. Sucking on jalapeno peppers, though, sounds real disgusting. It's weird. Like
they don't have like a very strong flavor. You just put them in things to add heat, basically.
And Dag's freak out, though, is great. I just wish Norb's reaction would have been bigger, too. Like, they had such a big reaction on Dag, but not Norb. The licking your brother's ear, don't do that.
Yeah,
That's gross. Even if it's just a
That's
trick.
imitatable, too. What are they doing on the show?
So as the night's going on, they're pretending that they're not tired, and they think that it's later than it is again. Like, I've had that, too, though not to the extreme of this show of like, oh, it's 9:30. Wow, okay. Then I like how they're both kind of challenging the other to be like, I'm not tired. Are you tired? No way. And their lazy pillow fight is really well animated.
Oh, yeah. Too. I like them saying pillow fight.
Pillow fight. And how Dag even just hits a photograph of Norb.
That was the funniest joke in this. He's so tired, he's hallucinating, thinks the picture is his brother.
And they also play some tetherball and late night exercising. Tetherball, I don't think anyone has ever enjoyed playing that.
I've only seen tetherball in cartoons as gags. I've never played it. I've never seen it at a gym or in a playground.
I think definitely on one playground in middle school, there was a tetherball there, but nobody knew to play it. I think the real test of it is just, can I hit the other person across from me with the ball?
People realize, oh no, this is a weapon that's dangerous. It actually gets rid of the whole retrieving the ball part of sports, which I hate, but still.
As they're having their pillow fight, they hear a noise, and I really like this noise bit because it works both as like a child story like you'd see on Sesame Street of, oh, do you see how things that seem normal can look scary in the dark? But it also feels like what high and paranoid guys would think at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So it works for kids and adults alike. They think that the spleen is walking around, and the guys have decided that they're not going to run from their fear.
I'm so scared.
That's not me.
Crawling spleen. It's over there.
No, it's over there. See? Getting close.
Over where? It's in our kitchen.
I've got an idea. Come on.
You sure you don't want me to wait out here? You know, in case it gets past you?
No, we're going in there together. I'll be right behind you. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
I like his protective gear in that scene.
Yeah. The design on the gear is pretty great. It also slightly reminds me of when Dag would take on his superhero persona of a muscular beaver. Even how he pronounces that they save the day by hitting the faucet, though it's not exactly his muscular beaver voice.
Muscular beaver, eh?
Yeah. And they destroy their kitchen and realize that it's all just water on a leaky faucet dripping onto a sponge. That's all it was. And
I do like the sound effect they use.
Yeah, it really does. It sounds like a squishy sound that you'd get in Foley for a movie, but also what it might actually sound like if a damp sponge was dripped upon.
2 sleep-deprived people.
Mm-hmm. And then those sounds just feel louder and louder as you're freaking out if you're either sleep-deprived or, on some sort of mescaline or whatever.
Those peppers are weak, man. They're not kicking in yet.
Then after that, it has a real Beavis and Butthead vibe to it, I think, or at least just the flat drawing of them on the couch laughing.
I like them just being delirious. There's not a lot of writing happening. It's all sort of in the voice acting, but it's just fun to watch.
Yeah, this bit here just feels like they told Nick and Horvitz, like, go nuts in the laughing.
It's the spleen.
Let's get some spleen.
Crawly, spleeny weeny spoot face.
Spleeny weeny.
Eat my brains.
My work here is done. I'm gonna puke. Oh, my sides hurt, Norby.
That's such realistic cracking up.
Yeah, it feels like they really were coming, like they were told to laugh for like 2 minutes straight, and then eventually they got to this point of just losing their minds, the actors.
Yeah, it's very realistic in that you also have like the sighs you get while you're laughing, like
yeah, and then as you lose your steam and then pick it back up once you got your air back.
How long was that clip?
That was a minute.
A minute. Wow. Again, no writing in that scene. I think maybe someone wrote, "I'm gonna puke," which I laughed at too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it's all done so well by the voice actors. I wish I had that luxury. Just like, you fuck around for a minute, and I will just edit you together.
I mean, looking at it in clip form, it does feel like this is a 7 minutes stretched to 11 minutes. I think. But their laughter is just so funny. I think the only downside is like the animation's not good enough. Like they could have gotten more crazy poses for the laughing. But it is more just realistic of like, I do like the animation of when he's going like, I think I'm going to puke. He has his like shoulders leaned back on the couch, holding himself up. That was a real realistic setting.
It's very cute.
Once they're done laughing, then we have an ending that feels like a comic strip gag panel.
Yeah.
Though I think that's what Nick Bakay has, that his delivery of this line is so big, I think he knows that it's a ridiculous ending.
And it's only 10:34.
Yeah, it's only 10:34.
I can't believe it.
We've come too far. Give up now. Got to stay.
Oh, night. It's not plugged in.
Dag, how long have we been awake?
He gets very Shatner-y
in
that last scene.
I love that. I do love the Shatner delivery of like, must stay away.
I think even that last line is Shatner-y.
Yes,
he's hamming it up.
I mean, the line deserves hamminess. Like, it is a very silly ending of that they somehow stayed awake for like 100 years and wake up in a Jetson-style future. Or not wake up, like open
emerge.
the door to it. Yeah. And then just their way of falling backwards, too, is a very like comic strip ending to it. I think that's why Nick does it so big, because he's like, this is such a silly ending. But I think that's why I think sometimes they were stuck for endings. They're like, we just got to go with something out of left field and silly, like, what the Like,
and they can't just kill their characters like Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, it's true. Ren and Stimpy could either have them fuck or die. That's pretty much it. What I didn't realize until doing research for this, though, they did a sequel episode to this one in season 3.
Do we explore the future?
Sorta.
Okay.
It does pick up right where this left off. It's called Up All Night 2. It pretends that no other episode between the two has happened. And so it is an inverse of this episode where, thanks to staying up all night, they have lost their ability to sleep. They now have insomnia. And so it's trying to go to sleep. And they're counting sheep. And then their house gets fuller and fuller of sheep. And there's crazier drawings of like the bags under their eyes just grow and grow until they're like half as long as their body.
I think I've seen that drawing before somewhere.
And it ends basically the same too, where they do fall asleep. And when they wake up, they are now incredibly old, and it's the double future where sheep have taken it over.
I like that one.
And their drawings are so great, too, that their teeth are like 10 times as long. They both have gray beards, and their fingers have like long, curly fingernails drawn onto the black stubs of their fingers.
That's gross, but I like it.
It's if you enjoy this one, you should check out the sequel episode from season 3. But okay, the second episode, Dag For Night, named after the Francois Truffaut film Day for Night.
And the filmmaking technique, right?
Mm-hmm. Which I found out I just learned this for the first time. En français, it's called La Nuit Americaine, because the filmmaking term in France is called American Night, because they're like, that's how stupid Americans film nighttime, is putting a blue screen over it.
So whenever I see that in like a Riff Tracks movie or a Mystery Science movie where it's clearly daytime, but it's like it's blue out. The weather sure is blue today.
I think the most guilty one of that, where I learned that term from Mystery Science Theater, was Werewolf, because that is almost all at night and it's all blue tinged. It's crazy.
And also Attack of the Eye Creatures. It was like going back from night to day to night to day, and that look up the They Just Didn't Care sketch. It's very good.
That's that's the pain of going from black and white to color. You have to fake night better. Then again, there's films where they actually just filmed night for night and it's just invisible.
You can't see anything.
What was that? The octopus one we just watched.
Octoman or something?
Octoman.
Yeah,
yes,
that was so great.
That was so dark.
Where Octoman emerges from like 45 minutes after he goes missing is the ultimate payoff in that movie.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest. I think the GIF is just out there. It's the end of the movie. You got to wait the whole time for it. But
that movie was amazing. Also, what I also like when they do Dag For Night poorly, the blue filter, but also they turn up the cricket noises. You know, it's like, oh wow, these crickets imply it's nighttime. All the crickets came out.
It's definitely nighttime when I'm watching this. Yeah, like this episode, Dag For Night, the movie, is about making movies. So, though not about finishing somebody else's lost film. That feels like a reference to something, because I've seen it in several cartoons before, but I don't know what it's directly from. But man, the writers for this, I don't know if you looked into their IMDb.
Oh, I didn't.
They are the most successful guys out of Angry Beavers.
Really? Okay.
It's pretty amazing. So it is a writing pair, partners, Glenn Ficarra and Joe Requa. They are the co-writers of this episode. They would leave this to write the film Cats and Dogs in 2001.
That was a fairly popular family movie.
And that would be their entree into Hollywood screenwriting, leaving the animation world behind. They took a couple other Angry Beavers writers with them, but they would go on to write Bad Santa. They're the screenwriters on
Really?
Bad Santa.
I heard that's a good movie.
It's pretty good. And then they took their next step they then wrote some big screenplays and then got to write and co-direct their first film, I Love You, Philip Morris.
That was them. Wow.
Yeah.
Like the sort of barely released Jim Carrey movie, right?
I fucking love that movie. That movie is so great. Is watching Jim Carrey give Ewan McGregor a rim job interesting to most people? Maybe. I don't know. But I Love You, Philip Morris is such an awesome movie about a real life guy who escaped from prison tons of times, but what I love is that they don't shy away at all from the fact that he was doing it to break out to get with another man, and that he was insanely gay, and that both of them play the characters as like super gay too. It's just like such a queer film. I really love that too.
I thought that would be the start of a new trajectory for Jim Carrey, but now he's playing Dr. Robotnik. So
yeah, I think some divorces and other stuff hit him hard.
The people have spoken. They want 90s Jim Carrey back.
But since then, Ficarra and Requa have directed 3 other big-time movies starring famous people. They did...
Who directed?
Crazy Stupid Love. I think Joe does most of the directing, but it's like the Coen brothers, I think.
Yeah.
It's just they're co-billed. So yeah, the Crazy Stupid Love, that Julianne Moore, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone film. They did Focus, the Will Smith, Margot Robbie stealing stuff movie that was, I think, Will Smith's lowest grossing film of all time. And Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, the real life movie about some news reporter in the Middle East, starring Tina Fey and Margot Robbie. And actually, I believe they're working on one of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn films too. So.
And it all started with 2 beavers.
Can you believe it goes back that far? That these
they work with Margot Robbie a lot, I guess.
I think she likes him. You know, now Margot Robbie is this is Star Snoop here, but she's doing the smart thing to do. And you're like, she was hired to be in movies as like this gorgeous girl in her early 20s who would do like nude scenes, and she's just a hot, beautiful woman. But she knows that, like, beauty fades. It happens to all of us. So by her late 20s, she is executive producing her own movies and getting onto the production side. Like, she knows where the real money is.
They're already building a new Margot Robbie in Australia right now.
I think they've got it. Like, the girl who's the star of Ready or Not, that new horror film.
Oh,
I think that's the new Margot Robbie.
I think Paul F. Tompkins was tweeting, like, are we just making new Margot Robbies?
Oh, you couldn't afford the real Margot Robbie.
Yeah,
so
we've got the off-the-rack model.
I mean, she, like, if you've seen her in Wolf of Wall Street, she is certainly a sexy young thing.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got depth to her, too.
Not my type, I'm sorry. And I'm taken now, so tough luck, Margot.
And this episode was boarded by Mario Diana, who was the storyboard supervisor for Angry Beavers, at least in the after season 1. And his biggest credits were he worked on Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain before this. And we go on now. He's done a lot of storyboard and boarding revision on Bob's Burgers.
Oh, nice.
It's these guys, they stick around. And yes, the director was Michael Guerta, who was the co-storyboarder on the previous episode. And yes, the episode begins just like the other one with like a long pan across the dam and the creek. For a show about beavers, they don't do as much of the getting away at saying dam as you'd think they would do.
Maybe they thought they'd be able to. That would be the joke for a lot of episodes, but then that executive was like, no. They got to be happy beavers and no dams.
We know what dam means. So this episode aired 11 months after the last one. And I think Mitch Schauer really had learned by that point, like, I love how Nick says everything. Do it every line.
And it's kind of grating, but I also, it's unexpected where he goes with the vowels. Mm-hmm. So it's also kind of fun to follow.
It holds your attention even when it's like lame exposition when he says bullshit like
Directoire.
that. Directoire. It starts with the beavers finding a mysterious treasure chest. Norb is able to unlock it using Dag's nose as a lockpick
I like
somehow.
that. And I imagine an Angry Beavers video game you use Dag as like different tools. And also, I was thinking about when, so the joke is light is pouring out of the treasure chest. I was thinking of Ocarina of Time when you open a big chest.
Yeah. And that the cinematic lighting continues when he tries to turn off the light to watch the movie together. The light is still there. He's like, oh yeah, I gotta close the door. And yes, they find movie making equipment and a lost reel that they seem to think is from their favorite actoire.
Do you know what this means, Dag? Oh, yeah. It's the not-so-friendly creature from the off-white puddle who will eat you. This is the legendary lost film of our most favorite actoire, Oxnard Montalvo.
You mean...
Bum, bum, bum. Yes! It was never finished and disappeared without a trace. Do you know what this means, Dag?
Bum, bum, bum.
That's right. It is our duty as movie-loving beeflaws and as faithful members of the Oxnard Montalvo fan club to finish this movie.
Hey, wait a second. We don't know how to make a movie.
How hard can it be?
He goes through like 4 accents.
That hearing it just by itself, I'm like, boy, this is really extreme.
I did so it's funny how he pronounces some words with the French accent. I also like the unexpected members.
Oh yeah, members of these finish this movie. And Dag just as the straight man, like, well, man,
all right.
And yeah, it has a little Beavis feel to it, actually.
Yeah.
And we talked about the pacing moving a little slow in the first episode. This one, where he goes like, do you know what this means? Bump, bump, bump. No, he gets instantly interrupted when he says no. I love that. Yeah, and the footage of the monster, I really like the monster design. I mean, we all know it's Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Though, this is how films worked back then. You shoot a little bit of it, and you're left with something else. And sometimes you cut it together into another film, or as Ed Wood perfectly describes it in the movie Ed Wood, well, you got this octopus here, and then you got this footage of the submarine. You say the octopus is almost attacking him. There, you got a movie.
It's a very boring shot of just the man walking across the screen. I'm impressed they stuck with that shot for so long, as they just watch him slowly walk across the screen.
So much silence.
Yeah.
And in black and white, too. It definitely breaks the rules of what you can do on kids' TV normally. Like, you never have that much quiet, but that's part of the plot point, too, that they didn't even record the sound for this. It's just more like monster makeup test footage of like, let's see how it looks if we film it. Walk that way. Okay, now walk that way.
Did you ever have access to a black and white TV?
Yes.
As a kid?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. Only just, it was a portable television.
Same, yeah. We had one in our kitchen, and I would watch The Simpsons while I washed dishes.
I remember, I think it's because I saw some kid do it on a TV show of going into a big closet and just sitting in the closet watching TV. And I was like, oh, this is nice and cozy. But I mean, I was lucky to have a TV in my bedroom as well, which I think, in the late 80s, that still felt like a treat. Like,
I was spoiled in that way too.
Oh, see, like
it was my teacher, my mother, my secret lover. It kept me busy.
For once, we both owned some. I always feel bad when I'm telling stories like, well, I owned every toy, and Bob asked
No,
me,
I had cable TV in my room.
That's pretty nice.
Not all the good channels, but enough.
The first time I had cable TV in my own room was when we, at 8, moved to Atlanta, and we got our own, me and my brother finally got our own rooms, and I set up the TV, and it was like a Clarissa Explains It All marathon was on, and I was like, this is luxury.
This is the life. I could get used to this. And you put on sunglasses.
Yes, yeah. And I think I watched wrestling that night, too, of course.
Sounds
of course
great.
I did. But yes, they've decided they're going to finish the movie, but who shall be the directoire?
I'll be the directoire, and you'll do everything else.
Really? Great. Hey, I want to be the directoire.
You don't want to be the directoire, Dag. A director has to sit a lot, tell people what to do, and hold his hands up like this. Hey, do you know why they call these riding pants? Because they ride up on you.
Itchy, twitchy. Yeah, you're right. I don't want to be the directoire. So what do we do first?
Dagoscope. I want you to build a scary monster, like the ones in the big Hollywood movie ads.
You mean like Loptor, the terrible side effect of corduroy?
No. Even scarier, like Side, the shark monster. Part 6 in 3D. Smell around in HTX at selected theaters. The darn close to the Armageddon.
Again, I say.
I love them playing off of each other. It's so great. I sense that they are together, especially with all the crosstalk. That feels very natural.
Yeah.
And then them sort of murmuring in agreement or an understanding as the other person is talking.
Yeah, I believe a lot of the times they were in separate booths, but in the same room, like physically together. Yeah, I think too that Horowitz, like, he indulges more in this on silly pronunciations because he hears Bakai doing it so much.
I just feel like the little brother is imitating the older brother because he thinks he's cool too.
And man, the poster designs, I love those poster designs. Like, you look at those graphics.
They're brilliant.
Yeah.
They're very well drawn too. They're very much of that era.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think those are probably all over the walls of Mitch Schauer's house.
Mm-hmm.
Like those posters, all like those. Like the classic This Island Earth poster or Forbidden Planet ones. Like just all these, the kinds of things that got praised by John Waters' character in Homer's Phobia.
One of the pizza places by me is an Italian movie-themed pizza place.
Ooh.
So I guess the theming goes as far as their framed Italian movie posters. So there's like some nice bombshells, like Sophia Loren in like a middle-aged guy and his glasses are popping off and stuff like that. But one of the posters is of the Italian movie that was localized into the Green Slime, which was a very early Mystery Science Theater. So when I walked in immediately, I was like, that's the Green Slime.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Damn. God, this poster, they know every bad movie. And also the running gag of the increasingly intense autographs from Oxnard are really great too. And in 6 episodes, they're going to meet him in person in their Halloween special. Nick's pronunciations are getting to me. I just said like Halloween special.
Directoire. I wanted to ask you, because we're talking about Mystery Science Theater. As a Mystery Science Theater fan, after the release of Ed Wood, did it make you mad that people said Plan 9 was the worst movie ever made?
Oh, yeah,
it made me
sure.
furious.
Yep.
As someone who had watched Manos and The Creeping Terror and Monster A Go-Go and so many other barely a movie movies, I mentioned it on previous podcasts, but the most barely a movie Riff Tracks has done is Roller Gator.
Yep, yeah.
It's infuriating. It's a test of patience, but make it through it and you'll realize that is the bottom.
I think, the new bottom appeared when they could film things even on VHS. You didn't even need a film camera.
Yeah.
Though, even of the 50s, if you're just keeping it to the time frame of like 1940 to 1959, even then, Plan 9 is not the worst movie.
There are known actors in it. Mm-hmm. There are sets.
Yeah.
There's lighting.
Costumes, real costumes. I mean, it's a terrible film for sure. But yeah, like we've seen some things just from Mystery Science Theater that are like you would love for Tor Johnson to show up and at least be an interesting thing to look at.
Like he actually is in The Beast of Yucca Flats, the Coleman Francis movie, which is just a bunch of random footage with this like artsy fartsy narration, like flag on the moon, how to get there, push a button, something happens. Like it's great.
That's why Coleman Francis would count on voice over from guys like John Carradine to sing Night Train to Mondo Fine.
Yeah, like the entire Coleman Francis trilogy, which I love. It should be on Blu-ray. That is so much worse than Ed Wood, and that it's barely Ed Wood is fun to watch, and that's why I think it is a good movie.
Yeah, I think
not in terms of the filmmaking, but in terms of entertainment value.
Well, and Plan 9 also is more innocent. Like it doesn't hate women like some of the worst films in there, or just make you feel just like gross and itchy. Of like say in Red Zone Cuba, your lead character just threatens to strangle people to death all the time and just murders people. Like it's just so unlikable monsters.
Just throws a blind woman down a well for no reason.
Sorry,
her father. Yeah,
and she doesn't know any better.
Yeah,
like he throws him down a well.
It's sort of like an unintentionally like horrifically beautiful scene of violence. But he didn't plan it. He's like, I hate fucking women. I want to screw this bitch over.
So that's why like Plan 9 also is nice in that like Ed Wood is not I mean, look, he hates women to the normal degree that guys in the 50s did. But I mean, if you've seen Glenn or Glenda, he is very open-minded for his time.
Very surprised how that is a progressive movie for 1957 or whatever.
Now look, that film hates women too.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Women have to be the mommies of men who haven't grown up yet.
Mm-hmm. They tell his wife, like, well, if you want to fix him, that's exactly your job. Like, oh, I guess my job is to fix my husband. Glad I got married. But yes, anyway, back to Angry Beavers. So they decide they're going to finish the movie. Dag becomes kind of like a Muppeteer with his like vest to control his giant robot. And I don't think you need me to tell you that when he says it's alive, that's a Frankenstein reference. But I just I love how in all these old cartoons, when a director dresses like Cecil B. DeMille. I said the same when Burns did it in a recent Simpsons.
You need the puffy director pants.
Though they're so puffy, it doesn't look like they do ride up on you. Like he's clearly lying.
He's like 95% torso, so it's hard to tell.
Oh yeah,
these characters are just mostly torso.
Yeah, when Dag wears it later, his pants are just eating him. Like though Norb, that's why Norb ends up the director. He instantly delegates. Like that's how you get put in charge. You act like everyone else is below you, and they just accept it like Dag does. I like too that Horvitz, the way he plays him, you get a little taste of Invader Zim here, I think, too, with his evil, his mad scientist kind of vibes to his built robot. His robot just comes alive and instantly kills Dag and runs over him. When I saw him get hurt the first time, it's when I realized it was one of those cartoons where one character will be beaten the entire the cartoon, and every attempt he will have to not be hurt will be stymied, and he'll get hurt over and over.
He'll be beaten by the same thing every time, too.
I love those cartoons.
Yeah.
It's easy jokes, but I just love it. Like, an anvil will always hit Daffy Duck in the head, or Plucky Duck in the Anvil song. Man,
yeah, that's great.
Or Mango Drink is one of the funniest things.
You're just talking about that on some other episode we were doing.
And yeah, also the great animation on how it looks when Dag is dragged on the roof. Like you can see he left an imprint in the roof that's like pulled apart.
Yeah, I like I mean, this is not a very violent show like Ren and Stimpy or Rocco, but I like how he's like hit by the robot, then run over, and then dragged away. So like he's hurt in a bunch of different ways.
He gets beat up quite a lot here, even though they can only mangle him so much in this post-Ren and Stimpy world. He can have fur damage done, but you can't have like a bone sticking out or your jaw unhinged. They're filming the movie, and we get the few supporting characters in the show. We get Barry the bear, who's a Barry White kind of guy.
Yeah.
We've got Bing, an annoying lizard, who I'm glad they use less of. His character is he's annoying, so he sucks. And then you've got Stump, who totally they ripped off in Aqua Teen Hunger Force with the towel roll character.
Oh, the towel roll character.
Well, just the silent.
Okay.
Or I guess the basketball. No, Boxy.
Boxy did talk though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and the returning gag is with Stump. Actually, he's very similar to
Plank.
Yeah, Plank. But I was gonna say the dad on Strangers with Candy.
Oh yeah, okay.
In that Stump always did stuff when he was off screen. Like people would be like, "Oh, you definitely talk. You definitely go places." But whenever he's on camera, he does not move and does not say things.
I don't think there are any real jokes about him in this episode. That he's doing things. It's more like he's more like a prop.
There's one joke where Barry responds to him like he said something. But that's it. Otherwise, yeah, there's deeper Stump episodes where it's about him like trying to find his family and he somehow moves across the country. But obviously he's just a non-moving Stump. I also like that Stump is playing the character of corrupt industrialist.
Yeah.
I love that. Which, hey, you could just say industrialist, right?
Boom, redundant.
Yeah, take that. But yes, as they're filming it, things aren't going so well for Dag.
Action!
Oh my, it's gonna crash into us. Save yourselves.
Cue special effects.
Oof. Why do I have to do special effects? I want Barry's job. Acting doesn't hurt.
Sure thing. Barry, you're fired.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Take two and action.
Oh my, it's gonna crash into. Save yourselves. You were supposed to yell cut before it hit me.
Come on, Dag. You know all the best actors do their own stunts.
Acting stinks.
Your acting stinks.
This shouldn't just be called Snippy Beavers, this show.
You're right, yeah. Passive-aggressive beaver.
Yeah, this is a chance for him to get angry. He just gets snippy. Yeah.
Even when he's asking, an angry beaver would have been screaming like, I want to act now. I don't want to do this. And so he's like, this stinks. I want Barry's job. Meh. Like, he even very, like, childishly taunts Barry that he got him fired.
Snide beavers.
Yeah. Which, I guess, they're playing Dag in that way so you don't feel too bad when horrible things keep happening to him because he's kind of being a jerk to everybody else. I like the exchange of, like, your acting stinks.
Yeah. It does feel very natural.
There's also a really good visual gag of how Norb is constantly doing the widescreen thing, looking around, and then it leaves a dotted line over Dag that he has to
wipes away. Yeah,
that was the great little screen wipe sound there. And yeah, that no matter what Dag does, he's going to be smashed by this. Like in that Norb, he did let that hit Dag. That one, I think you can blame on Norbert instead of just bad luck. Like he was supposed to say cut and then drop the thing on him.
The next one is a coincidence, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. I wonder if that was a reference to Jackie Chan too, of doing all their own stunts, because he was getting pretty big then.
Around this time, yeah.
In America, in
America.
Yeah.
We were in the Bronx Rumbling era.
And so, yes, after Barry gets his job back, and I like to, Dag is a terrible actor. Like, he's really bad at it. So Barry gets his job back. Bing is the one holding the special effects. Dag thinks he is for sure safe hiding behind a rock, and instead the pie tin giant alien spacecraft just rolls like a tire and crushes him behind
I love that. You don't see the crushing, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if that was budget or a note that it be too violent to see.
Probably a mix
screen.
of both, I'm guessing.
part of it by that point is you as a viewer waiting like, how is it going to hit him? We know it's going to hit him. And it even pulls him back. It very helpfully just drops him off right next to Norb, too, so he can quit. That's when, in a very smart way, Norb knows how to talk Dag into not quitting.
Movie making hurts. I quit.
Dang it, you can't quit. And our hero, Oxnard Montalvo. You remember what he said, Daggett?
Please don't suck my brain out through my spine.
Yes, and then what did he say?
I'll never give up.
That's the spirit, Dag! I knew you'd come around. Oxnard would be so proud.
Okay, but this time, I'm gonna be the directoire. I don't care how much the pants ride up on me. I may even enjoy it. Ahem! Lights! Camera?
It's a good pain scene.
Yeah, even says action like
action.
Norb says. That definitely, when I see that the guy worked on Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, that definitely feels like Brain, that would have happened to him in several episodes too.
It's fun violence.
Mm-hmm. And that's also when we get the last of the Oxnard autograph things, which are just a print phrase of cease and desist LAPD. So they are stalking Oxnard at this point, and it's become an official case.
Do we still get cartoons where it's just about a character being injured over and over that are for kids?
I don't know.
I feel like we lost that. I think because all of these people were inspired by Looney Tunes, and the people who are making cartoons now were inspired by things that were much later.
I don't think there's as much definitely though when we watched our friend's show OKKO in the big TKO finale, season 1 finale, there was at least the running gag that Rad kept getting horribly injured over and over.
That was very funny. Yeah,
that kind of reminds me of that stylistically. And I did see a scene from this new show Mau Mau, which it had similar beats to everything he does goes wrong, and you're just waiting for how it goes wrong. But in this Looney Tunes style of like you're going to watch a horrible thing happen to the lead character over and over, I don't know if that really exists.
Yeah.
In that way anymore. But please let us know in the comments if we're wrong there. As Dag gets smashed, falls into a pile of lights, smacked around by the camera stand, thrown into the giant fan that buzzes him up, and then smashed into a rock by the alien spacecraft one more time. That's when he finally quits. And in my weebiness, I wrote he left a Junji Ito-shaped hole.
That's true. It's perfect for him.
It was
Crawl back
made
in
for
there.
Me. Though it does feel a little too adult that Dag says, I might actually enjoy it if the pants ride up on me.
They don't have butts or crotches. There's no riding up on those riding pants.
Yeah. I love how he's designed and wearing the clothes that Norb was wearing. Like he looks like a little dictator in it too, so you don't feel too bad for him. But yes, as Dag quits, he finds out it's okay if he quits because the filming is done.
Dag.
I give up.
Okay, give up, Dag. We're done.
Done.
Some of your injuries may never heal properly, but we will always have made our movie. The greatest movie ever made. Say it with me, Daggett. The greatest movie ever made.
That's a movie.
You'll say. This is boring. Let's watch our movie again.
I thought it was a movie.
They never said that.
I like how he immediately just stops doing the vowel thing.
Yeah.
It's like, that's stupid.
Once Dag starts doing it, he's like, that's not cool anymore. I don't do that. I never did it. No, like that feels the most like an older brother right there. Yeah, that whole bit of movie, that feels improvised to me for sure. It's just they're great back and forth. Like, what's a movie? I love that. And
it just felt very natural.
I think Norb, the filming was done. He just wanted to watch. So when he made Dag the director, he's like, we're already done filming anyway, so let's just see what happens.
I want to watch him get hurt more. The only problem I have with the following scenes is that for whatever reason, we are too far away from the movie that they made. It's like it appears to maybe like 20% of the screen.
Yeah.
I don't know why they couldn't have zoomed in just a little more or just showed us the movie not framed within a projection. That's
a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think they actually draw the projector, like pulling film around in a very good way. Like it looks very accurate to an old projector. But yeah, you're right. The aspect ratio is so tiny already on an SD footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a damaging to the great art they did in black and white to make. They worked really hard to make it do all the things bad movies back then did.
They could have just given us a border like The Simpsons would do with the purple TV border around the TV frame, or just show us the thing and we know it's a movie they're watching because they said, let's watch the movie.
You know, maybe it was from on high of like, you need to have all this color stuff around it. We can't just have black and white.
Oh, you're right.
Like,
what if a kid turns to this and it looks boring? Yeah,
it could be that. But yes, the movie they watch, or movie, it hits all of the great moments of bad filmmaking from those times. Like characters jump around in the edits. There's like mics being in frame. There's billboards and actors not being visible. One of my favorites, a really understated joke, is that Bing says Barry's line real quick. They both say the same line at the same time because Bing fucked up. He's like, oh, that's my line, right? Like, no, that was Barry's line. You're not supposed to say. And also the weird sound effects and even gags about overexposed film, too.
I did like that. The one thing that's missing because there are no cars in this universe or the characters don't drive is a parking scene where one of my favorite bad movie trademarks is a character arrives at a location with their car, they park the car, they get out of their car, then they walk to the location, then we cut to the inside of the location.
It's the easiest marker of a bad film.
Yeah.
These are things I never noticed until MST3K pointed them out. Like, that I think it was, they did the joke so much on Hobgoblins.
Yeah.
That was just parking the movie. I was like, oh, I guess they do park a lot.
They were watching an Ed Wood movie. I think it was like The Sinister Urge or The Violent Years, one of them, where there was constant parking scenes, and I believe the joke they made was, show it all, Ed.
I mean, you got to hit a certain time for it to be a real movie. So
parking is part of his character.
You see, they didn't have time for all of this parking here. Actually, when at the spoilers at the end of this, when the monster shows up in the car, they should have shown the monster drive up and park and get out of the car.
I agree.
A lot of their bad film is more visual than dialogue, but there's some pretty good dialogue here, including the bit where you have a bit where Barry is talking back to Stump as if Stump said something.
Beaver Brothers Studios presents the not-so-friendly creature from the off-white tunnel who will eat you!
Hello. Hello. I'm Professor Theorem. I am looking for a monster. Have you seen a monster?
No, baby. What about you, Stump? Joe? We can argue politics later, Joe. We got us a monster to find.
Somebody stop him! The monster is destroying my model! Train set!
They have come from space to rescue their comrade. Oh my.
It's gonna crash into us.
I love that gag. They both say
same
oh
time,
my.
yeah.
So
and there's like
good.
a sort of I realized it after it happened. Him inside the toilet seat in the beginning was an MGM Lion parody.
Oh yes, yeah. That was, and it that's a great gag to give to Horvitz as well, because he just gets to make a bunch of noises. Like, he's so good. Like, God, his breathing like that. So funny. Dag seems pretty unimpressed with the movie when they're done watching it, even though I guess maybe he's just shitting on it because he's like, all I remember is being hurt by this film.
It's true.
They cut in the little footage they had, which adds the like a horse neighing to the monster as well. Norb is also pretty annoying that he's just like, all he wants to do is watch the movie he made. It's just a very egocentric thing to do. But yes, the boys really enjoy their movie.
Oh no! The ion electric transducer wave motion nonviolent weapon thingy has ignited the atmosphere. We are all doomed.
The price of technology.
Ouch.
The end! Question mark?
It just gets better every time I watch it.
The only problem is that the monster looks too fakey.
What? It's a work of pure geniusness.
It's the
greatest film ever made. One day, Oxnard de Montalvo himself will come knocking on our door to thank us, and there he is now.
That, if I could have one complaint on that sound effects to represent their like doorbell or knocking, it's just all wrong.
It's weird.
Yeah. It doesn't read as a doorbell or as knocking. I don't know what it's supposed to read as.
I do like Bader.
Oh yeah, Bader and Genius. Yeah. And that even in this, when he opens up the trunk, it makes noise. It turns out that's going to be the last time they watch that because the monster is here. And
was not expecting this voice.
Yeah. It's really a left field choice to have a walk-in impersonation. Like
it was novel in the 90s.
In 98, it was still pretty new to hear a walk-in impersonation. I think Simpsons wouldn't do a walk-in impersonation joke until like 2000, I think
so, yeah. It was Jay Moore's classic walk-in.
Yeah, which I guess was also meant to be an ad for Action at the same time or something.
Mayhaps.
Yes, the monster appears. It's a rare time where Norb gets scared. He pretty much never loses his cool, but he does get scared by the monster, as does Dag. But it turns out the monster is nothing to be afraid of.
Just wanted to thank you so much for finding my motion picture equipment and my home movies, right? I mean, I assumed that it had all washed away, never to be seen again. I'm blown away. I don't know how to thank you.
We found, not stole, chest, wet,
Don't mention it.
Right. Look, now, if you forgive me, okay, my new girlfriend is waiting.
Feels like the opening to Police Squad.
I was just thinking that, yeah.
It's another one of those sound-alikes in the show. It's like, wait, are they? Oh, no, it's a sound-alike.
Look, licensing songs is only getting more expensive. But man, the joke that he's friendly, like I kind of expected that. But the gag that he drove there in a Cadillac with the robot that's now a woman that he built, and that
it's like wearing a dress and pearls or something. Yeah,
and he's dating the robot, and then I love you see them in the Cadillac, you think they're driving away, and they drive straight into the
water.
lake.
Yeah, that's great.
Such a good shot. Yeah, it's a very funny random ending. That randomness felt like a Ren and Stimpy ending to me, and just
just like a weird character appears and then drives away, and they're just looking at you like, what?
I guess also it reminds me of which Ren and Stimpy was it that a character ends by marrying a dead fish head?
That was Son of Stimpy, the fart episode.
Yes, yeah, that's right. It reminded me of that too, of like, well, I've got a new girlfriend now, and it's an inanimate object. In this case, a deadly robot. So, but of course, the 50s movie monster should be married to another 50s movie monster, or at least girlfriend. Who knows how serious it got for them?
Yeah.
But that was a funny ending that takes away their stuff and gives you an answer to the treasure chest. It even lets you know that, like, no, that actually wasn't a lost film. It was a monster's vacation footage.
And that was a real monster.
Yes. Yeah. Monsters are real in this world. It's just, again, it is similar to the ending of Up All Night of just like doing, like dong.
You need just ending. Like, it's like a Looney Tunes where you just need one big joke to go out on. Like the story just has to stop immediately so it can end.
Iris out and then go to the credits, which the credits are cool. I love their little outfits, especially I think Norb and his Speedo is, I think, one of my favorites.
All the little cool poses too. It's nice.
Yeah.
Really good music too.
Yeah. Always great music in this show. Chris Biscotti or Bichette, whatever. He did a great job. They also have a lot of comedy names in their things too, like a lot of quoted nicknames next to people in there, even pretty deep into the credits. It seemed like a fun play. I think Mitch Schauer was trying to have a fun office in that. But yeah, those were a good pair of episodes of Angry Beavers.
Yeah, someone who didn't really watch it was fun to go back to. I don't know if I would have really gotten into it as a 15-year-old, but now it feels like I could probably watch a few more and see where they take these characters. I like the voice acting a lot and how natural it is and how much there's really good chemistry between the two main voice actors.
Yeah, I think that Halloween episode would be a good next one for you to watch. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
And I totally forgot about this B-movie love baked into the show. That's great.
Yeah, me too. I had totally forgotten that was such a huge part of the show. It was fun to return to it. What I appreciate now most of all is the acting between the two leads. Like, they're just such great voice actors who would go. And it's funny too that they're both guys who have much more marquee roles. They're famous for other roles, but they do such a great job on this show. Like, this could have been the thing they're famous for if their other shows weren't much bigger. Especially with, like, Zim is such a loud, big voice. To hear a more, like, nervous, anxious character with the Horowitz voices is really interesting.
I gotta watch that Zim movie. It's new as of
the
this
floor
recording.
bass is so awesome. Yeah, it's a really great movie.
I was not like a mega Zim fan. It sort of grated on me after a few episodes, but I did enjoy it for what it was. But I was reading a tweet, and it totally makes sense to me. Somebody tweeted, if you were not in middle school when Invader Zim came out, you do not know how important it was. I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. We were too old for it then, but I still enjoyed it. But yeah, it's not like for the middle school kids. I saw that amazing video essayist Lindsay Ellis. She had the thought of just like Invader Zim is way better than Rick and Morty, and it's what Rick and Morty wishes it was. Like,
I would say it's much darker without being edgelordy.
Yeah, I mean, it can be darker without having to say like eat shit all the time.
Or have like rape jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Which thankfully they've cut back on since the first season. But yeah.
But that has nothing to do with these beavers. Hey.
No, they're fun beavers. They dance around with Herb Alpert music. It's great.
So thanks for picking this one, Shy Ranger. You've been a great patron.
So that is the end of another episode of What a Cartoon, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you want to support our show and get every episode of this podcast 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons and sign up at the $5 level. You'll get just that and also a ton of podcasts behind the $5 paywall. That includes all of our limited miniseries, including the most recent one, Talking of the Hill, and it will include our newest miniseries coming this fall. So you'll have a ton of new episodes to look forward to if you are a patron, and access to dozens upon dozens of bonus podcasts that you have never heard. If you enjoy hearing us talk, you have not heard all of us talk yet, sir or madam.
And if you want to go even bigger, at the $10 a month level, you'll get access to all of that stuff, plus our monthly premium What a Cartoon Movie podcast. And if you sign up now, you get to hear August's, which was the Rocco's Modern Life movie. So if you're in a big Nicktoons mood, it's really fun to hear us talk about Rocco's Modern Life Static Cling for over 200 minutes, plus our entire back catalog of them. So please sign up at $10 a month at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons, or as Norb would say, please sign up for $10 a month at patreon.com/Tuking Samson.
You destroyed our messaging. Now the Tuking Samsons people are going to be rich. It's Talking Simpsons, everybody.
Yes,
I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. Find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. My other podcast is Retronauts, the classic gaming podcast. Find it every Monday at retronauts.com or look for Retronauts in your podcast machine. If you like video games, I'm sure you'll find something to like about Retronauts. Henry, how about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG. I always tweet when new stuff goes up on the free feeds and on the Patreon and promote cool stuff that we do all around the year. So please follow me there on Twitter to stay involved. HENEREYG.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We'll see you next week for the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood episode, Full Metal Alchemist.
Went by fast. I bet it's probably 5 or 6 in the morning by now.
Yep, we did it. Let's hit the sack, bro. Well, it's still early. That's great, because I'm not even tired yet.
Yeah, me neither.
Good, because we're staying up all night.
Right. I'm wide awake and ready to go.
I bet I'm more wide awake than you are.
You're on.